Hey kids, the following program, although edited, contains scenes of nudity, sexuality, graphic violence,
ritual satanic behavior,
supernatural, explicit sequences. We're all familiar with them. Some material may be unsuitable for people unaccustomed to viewing films so explicitly presented.
Only you can judge if you're mature enough to witness the frank and revealing scenes.
They wish to consider whether it should be viewed by under 17.
Parental discretion is advised.
Howdy, Schlockaholics. Welcome to another volume, that Midnight Movie Mixtape, baby. I'm joined today by one Cody Tudor. Very hungover little Cody Tudor over there. How you doing, buddy?
Oh, I'm all right. Better than this morning.
Yeah, we put it down last night, like a solid 6 hours at least, almost, of just hanging out, killing some cold brews, shooting the shit with some good friends. I enjoyed it quite a bit.
No regrets.
No regrets at all. It was, I'd be lying if I said that I didn't, wake up definitely knowing that I drank last night. But I think the ginger beer and the Big Mac that I took down, it helped a little bit. Some leftover mushrooms. Those kind of gave me heartburn, but they were tasty. So yeah, I don't know. Could have been worse, but definitely not in the boat you were. So today we are going to be running another trailer-thon for you guys, a showcase of the 1980s. This is going to work exactly how our 70s showcase worked and how all future showcases will work. And that is, I curated a list of trailers, all pretty much blind. I don't have any familiarity with these movies at all, with the exception of two of them. And those I'm just familiar by title or cover art. I've never seen a trailer for them, never seen the films. The point of these trailer-thons, these showcases, is for us to kind of build our watch lists or our wish lists together. Basically, we'll watch the trailer. We'll discuss the poster a little bit. We'll discuss, the impression we got from the trailer. We'll decide whether or not we think each title is class or if we think it's ass, and that'll determine whether or not we'll be checking it out in the future. Pretty simple stuff. I'm excited to jump into this. We've got quite a diverse spread of films for tonight's episode. And, at least 2 or 3 of these have got to be pretty banging. One of them does come highly recommended from people that I've seen in various B-movie groups and various tape groups. So that already gets some points in its category. We've got a pretty high probability of that one being pretty killer. So, yeah, you excited about this, man? Do you like the 1980s? Is it a decade of horror that you're fond of?
For sure. That's definitely, even though I was born in 85, so I was alive for half the 80s. I would say the 80s was definitely the boom period.
Yeah, it's very similar, I guess, to like that initial boom period of Universal Monsters movies where there was just a huge glut of films. It's pretty much impossible at the time to run out of them because they were just being made all the time. The 80s is definitely a golden era of horror. We don't have to explain that because everybody knows it. It's by and large most people's favorite decade of horror. It probably was mine for a time. I think as I've gotten older, I've found shit in so many other decades that I love that it's hard for me to just stick to the 80s like some people do. But I love it, just the sheer volume of horror films in the decade. Means that you're guaranteed to find gems just about around every corner. A lot of trash too, but we enjoy that as well. So yeah, it's, a lot of potential for these showcases, all of them, but specifically the 80s stuff, because there's so much shit in the decade and we've all seen so much of it that it's very easy to get complacent and think, oh, I've seen everything there is to see. BFD, like if I haven't heard of it by this point, it's probably not that good. You'd be very wrong in thinking that, and hopefully doing these repeatedly will cement that idea in everyone's brains and encourage you guys to get out there and find movies old school style with just a catchy title, killer cover art, and a good trailer. That's all you need. So yeah, our first film from 1980 is Schizoid. Really like the poster here. It kind of gives me Blade from Puppet Master vibes, sort of mixed with obviously, 80s slasher stuff. It's from Canon Films, which is always a good sign. It's got Klaus Kinski in it, which is also always a good sign. So hopefully the trailer lives up to how badass this poster looks.
Sick with revenge, twisted with hate.
Hello?
You make me sick. Schizoid. Dear Julie, don't let me do it again.
I can fuck with that. I don't know if it looks mind blowing or anything. It definitely just sort of looks like your standard Jallo influenced 80s slasher film. Klaus Kinski always kind of comes across as a bit unhinged because he was unhinged, you know. I could definitely mess with that. I also like the idea of the scissors being like the signature weapon. I thought they were just going to be something that came into play and they used it on the poster because it looked cool. But the idea of presumably Klaus Kinski running around stabbing ladies with scissors looks pretty cool. Some boobies up in there too, and it looks like a pretty mean-spirited film. So those nipples might meet those shears at some point. I imagine that'll be a memorable scene. I don't know. You got any thoughts on that, Cody?
Yeah, I mean, I recognize the name. I knew it was a canon movie, and what Chad was put on there about Friday the 13th. I mean, it came out in '80 also, so that's probably definitely for sure wanting to cash in on it. And I did see at the end of it also Christopher Lloyd on it.
Oh shit, I didn't even notice that. Yeah, there was some serious Friday the 13th vibes, especially with those teenagers like in that barn. And it looked like he was going to drop something on them from the barn rafters using the scissors to like slice whatever rope was holding it up. So I imagine that could be any number of grisly farming implements, you know. Yeah, there's some Dario Argento, just general Giallo vibes to that as well. I feel like that was a lot of our early 80s slashers over here in the States. And I'm not sure if that's like an American production. I just assume it was. But yeah, you know, that they were watching a lot of that stuff and it was definitely making it into shit. Even the first Friday the 13th, first couple really have a bit of a Giallo vibe to them as well. So I don't know if I'd call it class or ass. I think it looks good enough to watch, though. I think that's a TBD on that one. I can't really say that it looks one way or the other yet, but it's got potential.
I mean, being a canon movie definitely scores at some points.
Yeah, that puts it more into the class territory than ass for sure. So yeah, I don't know. And Klaus Kinski, I mean, I don't know if there's a Christopher Lloyd cameo in there too. Strike that. Yeah, that looks pretty class. I'll fuck with that. Briefly, you know, any notes on the poster? I mean, it's got that classic just black and white with red text, you know. There's really no tagline or anything. It's just a quote from the movie, Dear Julia, don't let me do it again. But it is pretty sinister. And just, you know, I really like a good silhouette like that and the way that the light is glinting off of those scissors. I dig it.
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it. Like it looks like Blade with a pair of scissors.
It really does. And I feel like Klaus Kinski has played characters like that before, where he's just sort of a generic Jack the Ripper slasher type character that's going after women. I don't really know if he hated women in real life. It wouldn't surprise me. Klaus Kinski was a fascinating character. So, you know, worth looking into if you're not familiar with him and the various directors that almost killed his ass. Yeah, I don't know if I've ever seen the VHS box or that artwork at all. That one's pretty much a blind watch for me, but it's going on the list of shit that I'll be checking out in the near future. So our next one is also from 1980, and it is one that I have seen pop up many, many times in horror groups and tape groups, and always kind of meant to check it out. I think it's available on Tubi. But like a lot of things, it just kind of has fallen through the cracks. So I've never seen a trailer for it. I've never watched the film. I've just seen this amazing cover art, which actually is kind of reminiscent of the Friday the 13th poster art from the first couple of films. Really love that design with, like, you know, the inside of the figure being where the main artwork is. The taglines are pretty cool. It preys on human fear. It feeds on human flesh. I'm about it. So
Well, that's very much like you put that next to the Friday 13th poster.
yeah, they're basically the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, if you know, if whoever designed whichever one came out first really wanted to push it, there might be like a lawsuit that could happen there. But we're gonna check out the trailer right now for Without Warning, and then we're gonna just, you know, you guys know the drill here.
The hunting season has begun. But the hunter isn't human. Only the prey are. It came without warning. Like nothing on this earth.
Our friends are dead.
Beyond any known terror.
No, that horrible creature. Come on. They're chasing me.
Because when it leaves this planet, no one may be left alive.
Look, I'm warning you. When they start eating on you, don't come to me for help.
Baby!
He came down here with a sport. He wants to get himself a few trophies. And you know what? Right now, you and me, we are the prize game.
The hunter. The hunted.
There was no tree.
The thing that preys on human fear and feeds on human flesh. From deepest space it came, and now man is the endangered species. It came without warning, and now it's coming for you.
That looks fucking delightful. It's everything I hoped that it would be based on the hype I'd seen for it when people would post about it in the movie groups. That it does look like it's basically a pre-Predator movie. I kind of get like Predator mixed with Seed People from Full Moon vibes. I like both of those movies a lot. And this came out before either of them, so you know that it's like just basically drawing from similar influence. Some definite 1950s, like It Came from Outer Space, creature feature type vibes to that, but done with like a greasy 80s vibe to it. You got Jack Palance up in there just being fucking old and scary.
And
There's a
Martin
kid.
Landau.
What's that?
And Martin Landau.
Yeah, true. I mean, you also had that kid in the Marty McFly vest. That scores at some points for me, just on the 80s factor, you know. And that's fair enough, Chad. Yeah, not everybody's into those like alien visitor movies like that all the time. That definitely has some rubber suit monster, you know, B movie vibes to it, but I'm checking it out for sure. That's pure class for me. I don't know. What do you think, Cody?
Yeah, I mean, it looked like he'd be fun. I think what sealed the deal for me was at the very end, just him yelling "alien" as he's charging.
Is that what he said?
Yeah, alien.
I was like, at first I was thinking he was like Elliot, you know, like an ET reference or something.
Maybe he
but I don't
was.
think that movie was out yet.
I'm gonna go with alien because it makes it more funny.
Yeah, and I mean, why would he be yelling Elliot unless there's just someone in the movie named that? But I liked it, man. I liked the idea of these little like scritchy things flying around through the air, leeching onto people's faces and like seemingly transforming them into aliens, maybe. Or maybe the alien that is hunting them is using those things as like almost like it's coonhounds, you know, to like track you down and like immobilize you so that it can capture you or hunt you or whatever. I don't know. A lot of possibilities there. The Flatwoods monster. Yeah, I could see how you might think that. That's a pretty interesting case that has always kind of perplexed me a little bit because it doesn't seem like it's an outright lie, but maybe there's some exaggeration there. If you're into like cryptozoology and alien encounters and stuff like that, it's one of those cases that you come across. Yeah, I don't know, man. Maybe we could attach based on a true story to that. They should have went with it. I always like movies that lie and claim to be based on real events. I don't know, just for the cast, just for the cheesy, space alien vibes and the greasy 80s atmosphere and that Marty McFly vest, that's getting filed in the class category for me. I probably should have checked it out years ago. Dude, that Mothman statue is thick as fuck. He's got ass on him for days. I want to go there just so that I can squeeze one of those cheeks. It's a bucket list thing for me. You guys know the one I'm talking about? That like metal Mothman statue they got out there?
Uh-uh.
Oh, it's brilliant, man. I'll send you pictures of that ass after we're done with this stream.
Please do.
He's got that junk in the trunk, boy. I don't know why they designed it like that, but I'm happy they did. So our next film here is it's another one, back to back with Without Warning, as far as films that I have a very surface level familiarity with. And this is one that I actually possibly saw at some point when I was a kid, because I know I've seen this poster art like a billion times in tape groups and horror groups for sure. But I feel like in the back of my brain, I have memories of seeing this in person, like on a VHS tape. Other than that, I don't know. Like, I haven't previewed any of these trailers, so I can't confirm that 100%. But it is, going to be interesting right now to find out whether I've seen this or whether it's just something I looked at as a kid and never got to. I like the poster quite a bit. It's pretty disgusting. It's very reminiscent of, like, I feel like if you combined the basket case poster and the It's Alive poster, this is kind of what you get. Here are the monsters, little toys. Once they were little girls and boys. That's a bit creepy. It's loose, it's angry, and it's getting hungry is a much better tagline. I'm glad that they put them both on there, I guess. But that top one gives me bad vibes. The lower one is much better. So let's check out the trailer here and see if I have indeed seen this or not. I don't think I have, but like I said, it's possible.
Humongous. Six people stranded, cornered, hunted. Because here on Dog Island, something evil has been growing for 30 years. Humongous. It's loose. It's angry. And it's getting hungry. Humongous. God help us.
That looks pretty fucking sick, dude. Almost looks like it's like a precursor to maybe what's this Hatchet. That's kind of the vibes I was getting from it a little bit.
Some Victor Crowley.
Yeah, like somebody had like this monster kid and they decided to move out to this isolated island to like keep it away from people. And then these shipwrecked victims like end up becoming, victims of the creature. Definitely not something I've seen. I feel like the memory I'm having is of Linda Blair somehow being involved with these people that had like a monster baby living in the attic. And I don't think that that's the movie. So it must be something else. And maybe you guys in the comments can help me narrow it down to whatever that is. But as I was watching it, I was like, is Linda Blair in this? And then more memories sort of started clicking into place. This movie maybe called Grotesque. Does that ring a bell to anyone? I think that might be it. So I guess you could see how I could get that confused potentially with Humongous right there. that looks like class to me. I don't know. I'm a fan of those simple creature features. I'm a fan of like isolation horror, like Hills Have Eyes and shit like that, where people are either trapped out in the middle of nowhere or they're trapped on something like an isolated island. Anthropophagus the Beast kind of comes to mind, or the Grim Reaper, excuse me. Yeah, I don't know. I'm into it. What do you say, Cody?
Yeah, I liked it. It sounded good. I like the bedrock lettering and like the rapid fire spelling it out. I like that from the very beginning. And it definitely looks fun. Obviously, they're really proud of the pyro in the movie, and that is okay with me and very 80s. But yeah, I mean, it looks like it'd be a fun watch.
I really like how they kind of basically showed us the monster, but also didn't, too. That freeze frame when it popped out of the water would have scared the shit out of me as a kid, and definitely sold me on the entire thing and made it where I just needed to know what that creature looked like proper, you know?
Yeah.
Definitely going on the list. So we're, as far as I'm concerned, we're 3 for 3 here. Weakest one of the batch would probably be Schizo, and that's just because of the somewhat generic nature of it. Strongest one of the batch so far would be, I think, that one for me, actually. Without Warning looks rad, but Humongous, definitely something I'm going to have to check out. If it is indeed a TV movie, as Chad says, there's a good chance that it might be just available on YouTube as well. So hopefully that's the case. I would not mind checking it out. One ticket to Dog Island, please. Oh, yeah. There did seem to be a fair amount of dogs in that. Corman released Grotesque. Media released the VHS. Is that the movie I'm talking about, though, where there's like Linda Blair and an attic baby that's a monster or whatever? And I think it ends up like killing a bunch of the people that come there to visit with her, and she might be its sister or something like that. It's been a long time since I watched it. It was one of those things I rented probably, I don't know, 7th grade or something like that. That's the fun part about there being so many horror movies and us watching so many of them, is every now and again one gets lost to time like that. Sick. Okay, I'm definitely going to be revisiting that one, because the more I'm talking about it, the more fond I am of the memories. So it must have been pretty decent, at least. What were you going to say, Cody?
It was released in '88. That the Grotesque. I don't know if you said that or not. So it would be in your around that '80s timeline.
Yeah, easily could have ended up on this list. If I'd ran across the trailer, I probably would have thrown it on there just to confirm whether or not I'd seen it and if it was the movie I was thinking of. So, yeah, thank you, Comic Shop, for confirming that. I might watch that tonight, actually. So, our next film, moving right along, is one that I chose 1000% just because the poster looks simultaneously cheap and awesome. It features a lady in skeleton bondage or whatever with like a weird tube attached to her. She's got some tiggle bitties on there. It just looks like the type of thing that we would be into, you know?
If you want to go, I don't care.
Alien vampires have just landed from outer space in search of the one substance they need to survive: teenage blood. I love it. So let's check this out. Let's see if it looks as good as this fucking poster does. I imagine that's going to be a tough bar to meet, but you know, we'll give it a chance here. Evils of the Night from 1985.
My boob! What's the matter with this pair, Buster?
Nothing. Oh, no.
What was that?
I don't know.
Was to survive for hundreds of years, beyond the normal lifespan.
Think, Cora. Without these platelets, your bones eventually grow fragile and break. You'd be dead within 100 years. But with...
We have a winner.
Yeah, that's pretty special right there. Cast is pretty solid too. You got John Carradine up in there flapping his ancient gums. You got Aldo Ray. You know he was drunk the entire time they made the movie. I love how it sort of presents itself as like this alien invasion movie, which it clearly is, but it also looks like it's got some like brutal 80s slasher vibes to it as well, which is not what I was expecting. Definitely seems to deliver on girls and, you know, scantily clad outfits running around dealing with whatever the fuck's happening there. A lot of, you know, laser rings. I don't know. What do you make of that, Cody?
Yeah, it's almost like they threw in 3 movies into one. You got like the 80s summer camp movie. You got the alien part, and then you got like the guy with the drill killing people. Like it's, you put these 3 things together and it looks like it works perfectly.
Oh yeah, I mean, not things that you would assume would be thrown together. It had more of like a beach blanket bingo sort of, you know what I mean, like those beach party movies they used to do in the 60s vibe to it at first, which is random. I definitely liked the cheesy laser effects. It looks like it's got some cool spaceship miniatures in there as well, which I'm always a fan of. I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff. It's you know, deep down in my heart, I am a Star Wars kid. On some level. So yeah, always a fan of that shit. It just looks like pure fucking B-movie insanity, which is exactly the kind of stuff that we go in for. Definitely lived up to the poster art in terms of just sheer random chaos, you know. And those drill kills looked pretty decent. Also, I do got to give a special shout out to that air compressor attack that girl performed on that dude, where she like blew a chunk of his brain maybe out the other side of his fucking head with that air hose. That's not one I think I've ever seen, but definitely wish that I'd seen more of, because there's a lot of potential there.
What was that movie called again?
That was Evils of the Night from 1985. I mean, with a poster like that, it had to be at least worth looking into. I mean, that is the fucking Millennium Falcon up there. Yeah. There's no way around that. But I mean, just everything else about it just looks fucking awesome, dude. I don't know. It reminds me of like another horror poster that I've seen before too. Maybe like Forbidden Planet or Creepazoids, or one of those has a poster that I feel like it's a similar like composition to this image here. But either way, you know, definitely lived up to what I was hoping that it would be there.
It's on Tubi.
Very cool. So add it to the list, folks. Evils of the Night from 1985. That's got to get my vote for the strongest looking film out of all of them so far. But there's more, folks. We have 2 more films for you left this evening. Our next film is from 1986. So we're approaching the late 80s with our last couple selections here. This is a film, the Evil Dead poster. See, I always think of the things coming out of the ground like grabbing her neck, but I suppose it's similar in that, you know, but the one I'm thinking of is more, it's like a girl and she's like arched over like that, and that classic fantasy sort of almost like Frazetta style pose. I don't think she has anything grabbing onto her, but there's like an alien thing like lurking over top of her, kind of like that. Maybe it's Galaxy of Terror. I don't know. It's one of those like sci-fi fucking schlocky romps from the 80s or the late 70s. But yeah, I could see the Evil Dead similarities and the dead hands coming up and grabbing her there. I also like how the quality of the artwork reminds me of like some independently produced like death metal demo or something, you know, just the way the stuff looks. But anyways, from 1986, we have our next film, and that is Link. I chose this one just because that creepy ass orangutan on the cover or the poster there. And I'm always a fan of like experiments on animals gone wrong, you know, and they just go around and like start fucking people up because, you know, just whatever, like stop testing shampoos on me or whatever they do to those animals. Usually it's like something that they've made super smart and it goes nuts. And just starts attacking people, or they've made it like they've augmented its naturally already crazy abilities and made it way stronger and more dangerous. I don't know. It seemed like it had potential to be a cool man versus monkey movie or lady versus monkey movie. So let's check it out and see what it looks like.
For centuries, the link between man and the primates has been shrouded in darkness, surrounded by mystery.
Dr. Phillip is expecting me.
Now, one man has closed the gap.
Well, he's a different kind of intelligence.
Forged the link.
It's different, all right.
And discovered what has always been missing.
Don't get involved in their squabbles. They sort them out.
Link, what happened in here?
Always forgive them, whatever they do. Don't ever let anything escalate.
You all right?
They killed Dennis.
I said stop pushing! Open the door now! We've got to outthink him.
How?
Link. Man is no longer in control.
That looks pretty fucking stupid. Yeah. It looks fun, you know, but it definitely looks way dumber than I thought that it was going to. I don't know. I'm down for it all the same, but it definitely has to get filed in the ass category. I thought it was going to be, I don't know what I thought it was going to be, but not that. I'm glad that there's more than one monkey in it, though, because monkeys are usually pretty cute. And I'm glad that it was actually an orangutan that was the one running around and attacking people. I just think it wearing human clothes definitely makes it harder for me to find it scary, you know. Had that thing dressed up like it was going to shoot like a Trident commercial or something. You know?
He was professional.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I mean, oh Jesus, what do you think?
I mean, I don't know. It doesn't look like it'll be any good. There's still might be worth a watch, but it's definitely not something I would say this is probably my least excited one. And that saying that I was excited about it when I saw the poster art for it, because in 80s monkey movie, like why not? But it didn't look too great, that's for sure.
Yeah, it looks like it also probably has some upsetting moments where other monkeys are killed by this monkey, which is a bit of a bummer. I mean, I'm down for the monkey to just be like killing the human characters, but why do you have to kill that chimp and shove it in the closet? It does look like there's some pretty hilarious like fling effects where they just toss dummies through windows and down wells and stuff. So I imagine I would be laughing at that while I was watching it. But yeah, that's going in the ass category. I mean, that's not saying that we wouldn't watch it. We watch a lot of ass on this channel. You guys are well aware of that. But it's not the type of thing I'm going to seek out. The poster, it looks infinitely cooler than the movie itself actually looks. It's cool seeing Elizabeth Shue or whatever up in there, but Yeah, I don't know. That's the type of thing I would watch if it like auto played on YouTube after I watched some other full movie that was freely available on there. But I don't think that I would be going out and purchasing a physical copy of it, let alone, rushing out to add it to my queue on a streaming service or something.
Right.
But, you can't win them all. Every now and again, you're going to hit a dud when you're curating trailers like this. And I'm still happy that I've now seen it and can warn people about it. It does not look as cool as the poster does. That being said, though, I think I'd still buy that poster and hang it if I could get it for a good price. So, I don't know. The creepy orangutan with the match in front of its face is cool. And honestly, I think if the movie had a scene where it lit the match and was looking all sinister like that and then blew the place the fuck up, I would probably, rank it a couple of stars higher just for that scene alone, matching up with the poster. But, yeah, that's going in the ass category, as we said. So our final film here is a film called Rotor. I chose this just for the sheer fucking audacity of them blatantly ripping off the Mad Max poster. So, because that is just the Mad Max poster, exactly. But they made him a robot dude. So we're going to check this out right now, see what it's all about. And then we'll probably just shoot the shit for a little bit about the movies, kind of maybe rank them one last time for you to get an idea of our thoughts on that. And, who knows where the night will take us. But Rotor from 1987.
25 years in the future, the ultimate weapon against crime will be the judge, jury, and executioner. And it will not be human. But here, the future has already arrived 25 years too soon.
Impossible.
Robotic.
It's okay, honey. It's a police officer.
Officer. Tactical. Operation. Research. Rotor. Its prime directive: to judge and to execute anything that stands in its way.
The Rotor walked through a busload of nuns to get to a jaywalker.
The perfect police officer.
It won't stop.
A prototype of what is to come. But pray, it never comes to this.
He's programming himself.
An unstoppable force. Without flesh and blood. Rotor.
That looks epic, dude. Low budget fucking RoboCop, sign me up. It's like they finally tapped into what we've always wanted, which is a version of RoboCop where the dude looks like a member of the Village People. And I couldn't be more pleased. I really loved the soundtrack of that little ditty that they had there, that pumping 80s tune. I've seen show up in a lot of movies, so I always get stoked for that. I think Full Moon's even used it a few times. It almost looks like it's like basically RoboCop if it had some Maniac Cop vibes to it a little bit. And yeah, I don't know. Everything about that looks fun. It's a shame that they decided to give it such a clunky title and just make the poster art a ripoff of the Mad Max poster, because I think if they'd maybe, marketed it a little better with a better title and a better poster, I wouldn't have added it to this just because I thought it was silly that they ripped off the Mad Max poster. But that looks better than I was hoping that it would. What do you think, Cody?
Yeah, that very much felt like a canon movie.
Yeah.
And I mean that in the best way possible.
I just love that it's just like some middle-aged dude with a middle-of-the-road mustache as the robot cop. They couldn't even spring for like a robot face mask to put on him. I mean, I get it. It seems like the whole core gimmick of the movie is that they're doing a cheap version of RoboCop, so it can just be a dude in like biker gear with some various robot-style squib effects or whatever you want to call them that they do to illustrate the fact that it's a robot. but they couldn't have. I mean, Joe has made like circuit board face masks for robot characters out of fucking cardboard that look pretty convincing. So I don't know. It seems very bizarre that they chose to just leave it as this greasy middle-aged dude's face with a thinning mustache. I love it. Those are those types of bad decisions in movies that I'm a huge fan of. I don't know if anything really stands out from the trailer other than that it looks like the type of movie that has a lot of really cool car stunt sequences in it, maybe, or like at least decently cool, where if you're watching it on a Saturday night with a 12-pack in you, you're probably going to be pretty hyped on it. I'm voting class on that one all the way. It looks like something that I would definitely watch and probably enjoy. Does it look like something I'd go out of my way to buy without having seen it first? No. But I'll be adding it to my to-be list if it's available on the platform.
Yeah, I mean, it looks fun. Straight up 80s action movie.
You can't go wrong with those. I mean, sometimes it's cool to just switch your brain off and watch a robot cop walk through a busload of nuns to bust a jaywalker or something. I mean, it looks like there's going to be some fun hijinks in there. He's popping wheelies and shit. I mean, you know, we're definitely easy to please, and that looks like it's aimed right at people like us, you know. here's kind of a crappy RoboCop movie with a dude and his mustache, and I'm there for it. The poster, not much to say about it that we haven't already said. I mean, if you side by side this with the Mad Max poster, you're going to see exactly what I'm talking about. But it's a well-made poster. I mean, whoever repainted it to look like this did a good job. You know, this was 1987, so they weren't exactly just photoshopping shit in 10 minutes. I mean, somebody put some time into this, and it looks pretty good. Don't know if I'd buy it and hang it in my house above the actual Mad Max poster, but, you know, I enjoy it. Can't read the taglines on it, unfortunately, because it's in weird digital script, and it's way too small. But I imagine, much like the movie itself, it's adequate. Yeah. So I don't know, man. If you had to choose the movie in the batch that looks like, I mean, just hit us with the top 3 from the 6 that we've seen so far. Which are the 3 that look, you know, the most up your alley?
I would go Evils of the Night. You're gonna make me relook at titles. Hold on. Definitely Evils of the Night. Without Warning. And I'm going to go Schizoid just because it's a canon movie.
Hey, fair enough, man. My top 3 would be very much the same, I think. You know, actually, no, I don't know. I think my top 3 is going to have to be Evils of the Night at the very top spot, then Humongous, and then Without Warning. But Schizoid does look pretty decent. As we've covered, Link looks pretty ass, but Rotor is kind of like the happy medium between all of them, you know. It's just class enough to be class, but just ass enough for us to find it funny. Oh, shit, my bad, Cody.
Double clicking.
Yeah, that's pretty solid. Again, Rotor is kind of like, it's like the ringer in there. It could easily be on my top 3 as well, just for the sheer audacity of that poster rip and the mustache, you know. And that's it, guys. I mean, this is what we set out to do, to find movies that maybe we hadn't seen, to add them to our watch lists, or at least put them into our consciousness so that we're aware that they looked pretty cool and we can go find them in the future. I think that this is still, for me, outside of like reading about movies in like a magazine or something, this is the most satisfying way to find new movies, is to just check out a trailer if the poster looks cool or something like that, or if the title sounds good. We're inundated nowadays with, I guess, whatever you call it, like viral marketing, where every time that a new movie comes out that looks kind of decent, it's then just beaten to death with like a million bloody disgusting articles, official spoilers that are released about it, 5 different fucking versions of the trailer. Back in the day, all you really needed was like a good title and an awesome poster, and those would do the job more often than not. But a solid theatrical trailer and maybe a radio spot or 2 or a poppin' newspaper ad could also help along the way. And, you know, I guess you could say that was that era's version of viral marketing, but they didn't beat it to death, I don't think, the way they do with a lot of these movies now. And with websites like Fangoria or Bloody Disgusting, because that's really what they are at the end of the day. Fangoria still publishes a magazine occasionally, but they're more of a website than anything else these days. And they tend to, even bleed into the indie like community with that kind of stuff, where they latch onto a movie that they're a supporter of or whatever, and they just push it in front of you so often that by the time you get in there to watch the movie, you feel like, what's the point? You've already seen half of the shit through the million articles that you've clicked on. And that's why I don't fuck with that kind of marketing anymore. If you can't sell a movie to me with the title and the poster before I've even seen the trailer, then you're just kind of fucking up. And the trailer should be the icing on the cake that makes you say, okay, I'll definitely check that out. And hopefully these segments will continue to illustrate that and get more people out there just looking through random playlists of trailers to find movies that you might like. I don't know, man. Do you ever feel yourself a little bit exhausted with the way that they market horror films these days?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of why I've almost just gravitated more and more so to the kind of movies that you and I talk about more so, because you're going to get at best a couple pictures. You might get a, minute and a half trailer, and that's it. These other ones, like, it just gets shoved down your throat, and they do 3 or 4 trailers that are 3 minutes each. So, I mean, you've already seen a good chunk of the movie, and some of them, they give the movie away. Like, after you watch it, like, well, they showed the whole thing in the trailer.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there was people that already figured out the Scream twist just from the trailers that they had seen, and that should not be a thing. You should get a minute and a half worth of trailer footage, maybe 2 minutes and 30 seconds at tops. I'm still not even a fan of some of those longer trailers, because I think less is more in these situations. You want to leave the people wanting more and pique their curiosity. And at their best, the trailers that we've watched on this show do that like several times over. It's just, I'm already sitting here thinking like, oh, what's the deal with those aliens? I mean, how does he control those little things flying through the air, latching onto people's faces?
Yeah.
Is he going to cut off a nipple with those scissors? I sure hope so. I mean, that's the anticipation that a trailer should give you, is like, oh shit, I definitely want to see where this is going. Not, I've already seen where it's going, but sure, I'll pay $9 fucking to watch it anyways, I think mainstream horror advertising is pretty cringe, especially with the fact that like people like Fangoria have always sort of been guilty of just being paid to advertise films that they probably aren't even that stoked on themselves, so you can't trust that shit. If they feel the need to put out 5 different trailers to you, that means that they're not confident in the ability of that initial trailer to sell the film, I don't know. I guess this is a good portion for us to take, some recommendations from the crowd here. You guys have any movies that you think that we should preview on here? If we have not seen them already, we'll definitely throw them on a list for a future showcase. They could be from any decade, really. This will just be a good way to log it in the comments, so that later on when I'm running one of these, I can bring it up and check out what recommendations you guys have thrown in there.
I think it'd be cool to do that from a couple episodes, and then just do like a special, like, viewer's choice of just all the stuff that they suggested.
Oh yeah, like a crowd submission special kind of a thing.
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea. I Madman. That's definitely one I'm pretty sure I've not seen or heard of.
No, I would either.
I've heard of the movie Madman, but not that one. So definitely one that I'd be willing to throw on there. And Madman's one of those, I don't think I actually watched it either. I was aware of it through tape groups, and I think I started it one time on Tubi or something like that, but got distracted. I know the dude's name is like Madman Mars in that particular film that I'm referring to. But that's mostly because this other dude, shortly after I became aware of the movie, ended up making some custom little figurines of the character. It's a 1989 Tabor Cox film. I'll definitely check that out. And the dude that did The Gate, I believe, which I fucking love The Gate. That's a childhood classic for me right there. And I'm pretty sure it was that same dude. So that definitely piques my interest when it comes to
Dominic do a trailer for that the other day. Was it The Gate?
Which one? The Gate?
Or did
I
you
don't know
watch
if
it?
he
Or
did
we
a
just,
trailer for the gate,
or
but I
we
think
just
he
talk
might have
about
watched it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do feel like I recall that coming up on a Schlock Talk in the very recent past. So, yeah, it's classic. The sequel's pretty good too. A lot of people, don't like it, but I think it's great. They run real well as a double feature. I don't know, Cody. Do you have any movies that you've been aware of through like the title and shit, but never gotten around to checking out? I mean, like everybody, I feel like has those classic horror films that they've seen the poster or like a tape or whatever, but never watched like a trailer or the film itself.
I've never seen Popcorn.
Oh, really?
I'm trying to think of poster art here, or VHS cover art that I know I've seen and recognize it, but I've never seen that.
Popcorn is one I've rented it at least a couple of times, but I'd be lying if I said I had like clear recollections of the film. I know it has Clint Howard in it. That's about all I remember of it. Chad says it's pretty great though, so that gives me hope. Maybe we'll run that trailer on the next one of these we do. I think Popcorn was from the 80s too, wasn't it? Or is it like a mid 90s flick or something?
I want to say 88, 89.
There's definitely some, like Inseminoid is a good example of a movie that I've known
91.
about for years but never watched it. What's that?
1991.
There you go. Yeah, I felt like I remembered it being like a 90s thing. But yeah, Inseminoid, that's definitely one that I need to check out. Much later film, but it's a Cronenberg flick, is Existence. I've had a copy of that for like 3 years, but never got around to checking it out. So that's one that's definitely on the list. I don't think I've ever even seen a trailer for it either. So yeah, that's one I would like to knock off at some point. And it very well could end up being like a 90s or a 2000 showcase, entry. Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to go through and look. See, that's the thing when you're scrolling through these curated playlists of these 80s or 70s trailers or whatever, you run across those titles where it's like, I know that I've like seen this around, but I never got around to checking it out. Or in many cases, I even already own them in like multi-packs. Like She Gods of Shark Reef is, I think, an old Corman movie that I have it in a couple of different multi-packs, and the title has always been really intriguing to me, but I've never gotten around to watching it. I imagine it's one of those like sort of 70s exploitation movies where there's like a cult of ladies that live out on an island and worship sharks or something. I don't know. The Pit from 1981 is another one that I'm definitely familiar with the artwork and the title, but no, I've not seen the film. So very good recommendation right there. That's it's always nice to uncover something about those films too that you're familiar with in that way, but you haven't actually looked at. Lady in White is another horror film from back in the day that I've actually read like at least one or two Fangoria articles on it back in the day, but I've never actually seen the film. Prison is another good example of like an 80s horror film that I know a lot of stuff about it from Fangoria. I know Kane Hodder was in it. I'm very familiar with the poster art, and
Empire movie, isn't it?
I believe it is. Yeah.
I think it might have been part of that box set.
Maybe. I think you might be right there. Chad says The Pit is awesome. He very well might be referring to Prison as well. But, Comic Shop can vouch for that one, and Chad has vouched for Lady in White. So, a lot of potential there. I mean, that's the beauty of this thing. No matter how much horror you've watched, nobody can watch all of it. We can certainly try, though, and that's the fun of the hobby. But there's always going to be stuff that slips through the cracks. There's always going to be more stuff to discover, especially from a decade like the 80s where, everybody and their brother was making movies, and, it felt like getting decent money to make movies, too, because there was such a demand for them on account of video stores and whatnot. Ghost Town's another one that I've always wanted to see, but have never actually watched. 4 haunted prison movies came out around 1988. I'm not sure I'm familiar with any of them other than maybe Prison. Though it's entirely possible I've seen more. Do you ever have like a movie you've seen that you always forget that you've seen it until someone else brings it up?
Yeah, or like back in the rental days. So many times I rented movies thinking I didn't watch them, and then it's always ones I had watched and didn't like, and then I just wasted money watching it or renting it again.
Yeah, there was at old Hometown Video back in the day, a common thing when I would rent movies there was they'd give me shit for like how many times I'd rented them because it would pop up in the system. But there was always those ones like that where they would say like, oh, you've rented this one like 5 times before or something. And it's like, really? I don't recall the previous 5, so I guess it's 6 times the charm or something. But I feel like more often than not, it was the same kind of a thing where it ended up being a waste of time and money. Thankfully, you got the 5 movies for 5 days for $5 deal or whatever. So a lot of times it wasn't that much money you were wasting.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. When you're a kid and the resources are limited, it's kind of a bummer when you end up renting a crappy movie. It's a lot easier for us to laugh them off now. What's up, Blaze? How's it going? We showcased your trailer at the end of our Schlock Talk last night. Unfortunately, it was pretty late in the show. I think next week I'll run it earlier on in the night so that more people will see it. But I like it, man. I'm stoked for that Amityville bloodbath. See, that's another thing, too, that is interesting to think about is, dudes like Blaze, he's a younger kid, so he never grew up in the rental era, and most of the horror marketing he's been exposed to is the kind of modern style of doing it. So he's got a whole universe of like awesome cover art and old school trailers to discover. Cover art and poster art is a huge deal for me, though. I love a good poster. Just filmed some stuff for it today, actually. Very cool, man. It's coming together. You already got some good stuff in that trailer, so I imagine the finished product is going to be pretty dope. So yeah, I don't know. I guess on the topic of like what we're going to be watching, since that's kind of the whole point of a show like this right now. Do you have anything on your immediate watch list that we might be discussing next week on Schlock Talk, Cuddy?
I mean, I'd like to say I'm going to crack into that Sterling box set, but I'm sure it's probably not going to happen.
I am definitely going to be running that Starship Troopers triple feature. That'll be something cool. I'm pretty curious about. So that'll likely be, a decent little chunk of my watch list for next week's episode. I'm going to try to get a couple of movies watched out of one of those Sterling sets, most likely the Cinema Cobb set. But again, same boat as you. I can't guarantee that because there is other stuff I've had my eye on that I want to watch. I don't think I'm going to go back to those trauma movies right now. I'm going to let some time pass, and then I'm going to revisit those when the frustration of having them interrupted is further in the past. But there are some Moonbeam movies I'm considering watching this week from my last full moon order. And then I don't know. I've been getting like, oh shit. What's up, Jeff? Oh, God damn it. It's been a long time, Jeff. It's good to see you, buddy. You missed the show, but there's tons of cool horror recommendations that you can check out if you run this back to the beginning. And we're going to be doing more of these in the future as well. Jeff is, pretty prolific content creator when it comes to video games and stuff like that. He's an old friend from my retro game days. Mostly focused on the horror films now, but I feel like Jeff has occasionally liked posts I put up there about that stuff too. So he enjoys a film or two from time to time. Some cool stuff in this episode for sure. In addition to the Moonbeam stuff, I don't know, man. I've been kind of getting in the mood to marathon some old franchises that I haven't revisited in a while. Like the other night, I was looking at my Friday the 13th box set and thinking, you know what? I still haven't actually marathoned that since I bought that Scream Factory set. The last time I marathoned all of the Friday the 13th movies was just on the random fucking like, you know, like $20 Walmart 8-pack that I used to have before getting the Scream Factory set. So I figure it's probably high time that I, you know, actually dug into that and watched the films rather than just showing it off in a stream or something. No problem, man. Yeah, definitely some interesting stuff in here. I always love recommending films to you guys because I figure there's just so much of it out there. It never hurts to, you know, get extra recommendations here and there. That's how I end up finding out about a lot of cool stuff. And there's just something more satisfying about like word of mouth or shit like this, you know, where you find out about it from someone that you're cool with. It feels closer to what we used to do back in the day, where a friend would tell you about something cool at school and then you'd go home and figure out how to check it out, you know. Yes, that's pretty much all I got in terms of what's immediately lined up to watch that I'm fairly certain I'm going to get to in the next week. I'd like to get some more episodes of Sequest watched as well, but that kind of keeps falling by the wayside for movies that I've been purchasing and trying to watch. So yeah, man. I don't know, Cody, you got anything that you've watched since we talked? I mean, we pretty much went through all that last night, but you get any movies watched today at all?
No, I got off probably about an hour before we got on here because it's my truck day, so it's when we get all our groceries and tobacco and all that. So it's kind of my longer day. So I haven't watched anything. I'm also supposed to be tomorrow. You know, I've talked about the dude that did the Blood Cove movies and the Grim Reaper movies and the Graveyard Stories anthology thing. I don't know, but he's all his movies are on YouTube, and he's got the 2 Blood Cove movies are on Tubi. It's the just Skull Mask. I know I've shown him before, but it's probably slipped through the cracks. But anyway, like I keep putting off buying stuff from him on his Kanaki, but I guess he was supposed to go to a con last weekend. And I guess they got a bad storm in the area, so they canceled the con. So he's got a bunch of the movies on hand. So he's gonna cut me a little deal on grabbing 5 or 6 of the ones I want. And he also has a couple shirts too, so I'm gonna snag a shirt too.
Nice, yeah. Those look super cool, man. I think they're like sold out now, though, aren't they? I thought I saw you make a post about that, like that they were basically gone, or maybe I saw the dude make a post about it. So.
No, I mean you can. I think it's still on SRS because I bought mine. Ron has a guy run an eBay store for him, and a lot of times you can find the stuff on there for a little bit cheaper.
That's an odd way to do it, but you know why not?
I know it doesn't make sense. I mean, eBay you're getting charged fees, so I really don't know what he's doing, but they like what was it last year for Christmas or Black Friday? They rolled out a couple of the movies that have been out of print, like Sex Squatch and stuff like that. Well, I didn't catch them, and then they put them a couple weeks later on their eBay page, and I got it for cheaper than what they were selling it for during that sale anyway.
That's right. I thought you did get that Sex Squatch double feature, didn't you?
Yep.
That's a good one to have, even though Sex Squatch 2 kind of sucks. We love you, Chris.
I'm sure he wouldn't argue it.
No, Chris is actually, I think, who told me that, you know, before I'd even watched it. He's, if anything, honest about when his movies suck.
That's good.
You can't win them all, you know. It's much like tonight's showcase. You know, eventually you're gonna put something out there that's kind of ass.
Well, especially when you make that many movies, they're not. It's like, I mean, really anybody. Like they're not all going to be great. And some of that stuff you're just kind of throwing out there, and it's just if you're obligated to make it in some of those movies cases, like they're just going to release it anyway because that's what they paid you to do.
Yeah, they're just trying to put it out there, have something else to release, so they don't really care if it sucks. And unfortunately, in some of those cases, that also means they don't really care to help you improve it.
Right.
SRS. Remaster Blood Fart Lake. All right, we do have a special bonus trailer arriving right now, hot off the press for you guys. We just mentioned it moments ago while Blaze was on the air. Hopefully he's still here so that he can see the support, because we really are excited for this. This is one of my most anticipated releases of 2023 so far. That's that Amityville Bloodbath, baby. We're going to get this in here at the just over the hour mark so someone might actually watch it. we kind of threw it in at like 3 hours and something minutes last night, you know, so only our diehards were seeing that. But this is Blaze Tudor's Amityville Bloodbath. Quality stuff, folks.
Hell yeah.
Quality stuff. You can obviously find more updates on Amityville Bloodbath and all things Blaze Tudor and Killable Productions through the Killable Productions link in the description below. Pretty much everybody we fuck with has links down there, all types of people. So if you like the kind of shit that we do, or you just like stuff that focuses on awesome old school entertainment in general, check out all the guys down there. In terms of stuff that we have coming up, we do this weekend have a discussion for the Face Melt Features double feature of short films with Night of the Axe and Spirit Board Doorway to Death. We're doing this as a precursor to the discussion for the full-length version of Night of the Axe, which just came out and is hopefully on its way to our house on a Blu-ray disc, Sean. I really hope that everything's going okay with that. It feels like it's taken a while. But, you know, sometimes you run into snags. I guess there was an issue with, you know, the ISO or whatever that they sent away to the distributors. Last I heard, he got it fixed, and it's going to be, you know, going out the door at some point in the next week or so, which is cool. If it gets out there in time for us to plug that in as the follow-up to the short film double feature, that might be kind of neat. And then we'll be working into our next wave of reviews. Me and Cody also did a discussion for Todd Cook's Night of the Clown from 1998. We're going to be doing a follow-up discussion for Dustin Ferguson's remake of that film from 2015, as well as Clown Chainsaw Massacre on our bonus limited series, Scream Time in the meantime. So look forward to that and check out that Night of the Clown discussion if you feel so inclined. There was pickles, there was pussycats, there was some pretty rad local music, and yeah, obviously killer clowns. So if you're into that kind of shit, check it out. Also, in the very near future, we have a discussion for the first 3 Trancers films that we're going to be doing with Chris Seaver from Warlock Home Video and Low Budget Pictures. Also, it Crept From the 80s YouTube channel, which you can find in the description below as well. Looking forward to that. And at some point over the course of the spring and summer here, me and Cody are going to start banging out some discussions for those Sterling box sets, the first of which is going to be our discussion for Camp Blood 1 through 3. Not exactly sure on a hard date for that yet, but it'll come when it comes. All stuff for you guys to look forward to, though.
Very excited about those.
Yeah, I think that's honestly the thing I'm most anticipating is that Camp Blood 1 through 3 discussion, because it's just going to feel so good to get up to date on that stuff.
They're all going to be good. Even the first Slaughter 4 and 5 one, it'll be fun in its own way.
Yeah, I mean, those movies are fucking terrible, so disclaimer right now, but we're going to have a fun time talking about them, to say the least. And obviously, Chad, if you have access to those films, you're welcome to come on and join us for those. it's going to be good times, you know. And then once we're up to date, we can start hitting these things as they drop, and that'll allow us to get in on the hype when it's going on and all that stuff. You know, ideally we would have been covering this shit for years, but we haven't been. We barely started this show last year, so we've got some catch up to do, but I think those groups discussions are going to be a good way to do it. So,
and if you're a fan of those franchises, I recently did a mask video of what I was buying instead of feeding my children over on our buddy John Ward's Dark Park Films review. I did basically a show and tell of all the masks and props I've bought direct from David Sterling or from someone that directed one of those movies or etc. But it's probably a video I've wanted to do for a long time, and it'd be really cool if maybe that ends up on a future release. Fingers crossed.
I'd honestly say it's an easy claim to make that Cody has the most immaculate and extensive collection of screen used masks from low budget films maybe in the world. I've never met someone else that collects them like that.
I've easily funded several Sterling movies.
Yeah, and I mean, there might be people. Well, there's definitely people with like bigger prop collections, but specifically masks from that have been screen used in these films. I don't think there's anybody that's got more of them than Cody. So definitely check that video out. And you know, push comes to shove, you guys get hungry enough, I'm sure you could eat those masks, man. I mean, people used to boil shoe leather and shit back during the Depression. So
I mean, I work at a gas station. Those write-off sandwiches and hot dogs don't have to make it to the trash if worse comes to worse.
And I feel like there's not a huge amount of difference in the nutritional value between one of those latex masks and one of those 7-Eleven hot dogs. So.
probably pretty similar. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, if anything, those Sterling masks might have absorbed some juices that would make them a little bit more nutritious, you know,
like a scratch and sniff.
I don't know if you even got to scratch them. They probably do have a smell to them, eh?
I keep looking for some long hair anytime I get that box from California. I haven't found a strand yet.
Fuck yeah, dude. Smash knows what's up. You can boil those masks up, man. Make a fuck old Sterling stew out of that shit. Oh, cool. That's such a random, awesome thing to have. Comic shop. That's fucking awesome.
That's right up Moe's alley, right there.
One of my dream props to own would be the tiny ship from Dollman, but I think I'm gonna have to settle for a replica at some point. And if anybody wants to make me a proper Dollman action figure, that'd be cool too. Still have no fucking clue how Full Moon has never done that. Yeah, you can eat some cardboard, man.
They're doing Dr. Death and Furnace Leech Woman because that's what the people want.
Yeah. Also, stay tuned for my clip where I use the crappy Leech Woman replica they sent me to make my own Furnace Leech Woman. I think that is still happening one of these days. Who knows? Maybe I'll grab up one of those fucking butane torches and we'll just make it live on Schlock Talk next week.
Just let it go.
I'm gonna have to make sure that I have like good ventilation though for before I start burning that thing. That Chinese foam probably isn't good to be breathing in once you've set it on fire.
So we got people. We got everyone hopping on now.
Hey man, you know, we're shooting the shit here. I'm down to do this at least for 90 minutes, and we're 2/3 of the way there. If anybody has any other film recommendations for stuff for us to check out on these, feel free to throw them out there.
And that Night of the Axe, the full-length movie is available on Tubi, although I am withholding watching it until I get the physical copy.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I had noticed that as well, and I'm stoked that he got it on there, but it's that's probably true, Comic Shop. I'm sure they do owe Timmy Boy some funds still.
He's probably not the only one.
Yeah, that might also explain why he wasn't in Transfer 6. Who knows? But yeah, I'm not going to watch it on Tubi unless we absolutely have to. I would like to cover it in a timely fashion after we do the short films, because it just makes sense to like stack them together.
Man, we could rock it out as just an extra episode or something
if we have to. But I'm really hoping that we've got our signed copies by then. And no hate towards Sean for the delay. It happens. It's not like he's exactly got somebody like J.R. Bookwalter and Makeflix behind him doing this. He's pretty much self-releasing the thing.
Speaking of Makeflix, did you see that what was it, The Hills Have Thighs that I tagged you in?
I did, and I'm buying that on Friday.
We were literally just talking about this last night, and it's a Makeflix exclusive. Like that's a mo right there.
Yeah, it's coming home, baby. It's going on the shelf. Yes, Jeff, I am watching that fucking Mario movie for sure. That and Dungeons and Dragons are the two releases in terms of like Hollywood shit that I'm really hyped on right now. Critic reviews are almost always fucking bullshit. Those guys just are paid to basically hate on stuff or praise it and suck its butthole. It just really depends on who put it out there. Those same people would probably be fucking like just lavishing the thing with praise if it was some asshole like Quentin Tarantino that directed it or something. But I don't think we're getting a Tarantino Mario movie anytime soon. We kind of thrive. We flourish in that realm of like stuff that people hate, you know.
Yeah, that makes me want to watch it more.
Yeah, if some mainstream critic says it's ass, I'm probably gonna love it. And that's not me just being like underground or contrarian or whatever. It's just they're not usually very tapped into what people like us like, you know. I did not see your D&D video, but I will check it out when we're done with the stream here. I'm looking forward to it. It looks like a goofy, campy, good time, you know, which is exactly what any D&D session turns into. Yeah, there's people out there like that are like mad that it's not a new Lord of the Rings movie, basically, and it's like, what? Why would you even fucking want that? I want it to feel like how a fantasy film would feel if it was played out by a bunch of dorks sitting around a table in a basement, because that's how I've always played D&D. So I'm so hyped to check it out, man.
Yeah, Mario. I think all the whole family's going to go try and check it out Friday night.
I mean, honestly, if I'm being real, what I would have preferred is a sequel to the one they did in the 90s. But everybody has such a bad taste in their mouth about making that, and Dennis Hopper is no longer with us, so I don't know what we're getting.
Bob Hoskins is either.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, so I mean, it would be impossible to make that. So I'll settle a CGI Mario movie.
Could do a Luigi's Mansion. That's about all you could do. You get John Leguizamo to do a Luigi's Mansion movie.
I won't turn that down. If they want to make like Mario meets 13 Ghosts with John Leguizamo, I am in. let's
shut up and take my money.
It's interesting to think too with the public domain movies that are coming out now, the new versions of stuff like that, like Winnie the Pooh. You got to wonder if someday, like 1,000 years from now, if Mario and Nintendo stuff will ever become public domain. And you'll see like some schlock artist making their own Zelda movie or their own Mario movie or something.
Yeah, I mean, it'll. I'm sure it can happen. That guy that did the Blood and Honey, like he's doing a Bambi and a Peter Pan. So I mean, it's.
Yeah, Tarantino being on the Epstein list is not surprising, and any of us that have ever been fans of the dude who try to claim that it is are talking shit. I mean, I remember him on Howard Stern talking about how it was fine that Roman Polanski was like hooking up with 13-year-olds because they were down to party or she was down to party. I don't know if he was saying that just to be shocking on Howard Stern or if he was really a scumbag. I feel like it's probably the latter.
Yeah, I'm sure there was some truth in that statement.
I've never liked Quentin Tarantino. I do like some of his movies, though. Smash says he's going with the kids to see Mario in 3D tomorrow, and yes, I agree. I feel like they really missed the opportunity to have a sequel to the OG. I just think cult fandom hadn't caught up with that film in time, you know? I mean, a lot of us love the original Mario movie. Well, I've always been of the... Go ahead.
It's never even got I think... It got released on DVD, and that's it. And I don't even remember. I don't even know if the DVD is still in print.
I feel like it did get a Blu-ray, but I could be imagining that. Maybe it's just my dreams I'm thinking are reality or something. But I feel like it did get maybe like a Shout Factory Blu-ray at some point. Or am I tripping? But yeah, it doesn't get enough love. It's one of those early victims of like, you know, people finding out that there was production hell behind making the movie, so they use that as a reason to say the movie is shit, much like Waterworld, where people found out because of the internet about the behind the scenes stuff with it, and were like, oh, this movie is garbage because they had a bunch of issues behind the scenes. That 90s version of Island of Dr. Moreau that Richard Stanley made is a good example of that too. And it's just not the case. Waterworld fucking rules. The reason that it flopped is because people were busy seeing other shit. I don't think it's because Waterworld was bad. The Mario movie, yeah, I mean, as a little kid, I remember being like, this is really fucking weird, you know? I kind of do wish that we had gotten something closer to the games. But then as I grew up with the Mario movie, I realized more and more that it's insane to think that they could do a Mario movie live action and not do what they did with the one that we got, which is basically combine it with Blade Runner and do sort of a new thing with it. You know, if you made a live action version of the games the way that they're presented, it would be the goofiest fucking thing on the planet. You know, it just wouldn't work. You know, so we had to wait for technology to get to the point where they can do the Mario movie that we're getting now. You know.
It looks like
Jeff's,
good. It looks like it didn't get a U.S. release, but it did come out on Blu-ray. There's a Region B for it.
Well, there you go. I might have to invest in that at some point because I still only have that thing on VHS, dude.
I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but check out that. Hold on. You gotta turn the cam on, stupid. I don't know if you can check out that. You're not gonna be able to see it. I'll send it to you. There's a steelbook that's pretty sweet.
Ooh, yeah. I'm not usually a fan of steelbooks, but for something that's a one-off like the Mario movie, I could fuck with that.
I don't. I liked them, but it started bothering me when they started charging more for them.
Jeff says he met Tarantino at the rooftop of a Hollywood hotel party after party like 8 years ago, and he was weird as fuck. That's not surprising, man. He always gave me some sketch vibes, and that's not me just saying that. I mean, look at Quentin Tarantino. They wouldn't look at that guy and fucking think that he's not going to be some kind of weirdo. He looks like a malnourished baby eagle. You know, it's the guy has like weird, sketchy, like sneak into your house and sniff your panties school shooter vibes, and he always has. So I don't know. The Wizard, that definitely got a Blu-ray release that I think was definitely from Shout Factory, if I'm not mistaken. I love The Wizard. That's some pure fucking schlock too. We have to cover that on here at some point. It's basically a fucking commercial. Like, you know, it would be a badass.
Mario 3, yeah.
Yeah. Dude, it would be so badass to double feature that with a Mac and Me discussion because they're just shameless product placement all over the things. They reek of the fucking 80s. And they're both an absolute blast, you know.
Yeah, still eat it up.
The Power Glove. It's so bad. It really is, too.
Yeah. Keep your Power Gloves off her, pal, okay?
I got one in the drawer right over here, but
I didn't get one until much later in life. I found it at a garage sale and they're way too expensive, and that thing does suck.
If you have the patience to sit there and properly program the Power Glove, you can get it to work. The problem is once you get it to work, it's cool for like 5 minutes, and then you just want to play it with the regular remote. You know, NES games were hard enough a lot of the time. You didn't need some fucking goofy glove making it worse, you know. But it sure looks cool. Like if we were to make a B movie and I could somehow, I don't know if they ever made like left-handed Power Gloves or whatever. But if you could get 2 Power Gloves and incorporate that into like a costume for a B movie, I think that would be really cool. The Wizard made you fall in love with California when you were a kid.
California
knows how to party.
Yeah, we're hanging out in that big dinosaur. That was pretty sweet.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of California, but maybe that's been raised into me spending my life in the Northwest. I like the rainy doom and gloom serial killer vibes that are going on up here.
I mean,
that natural wonder, you know.
It made me want to sneak onto a Hostess truck. I'll tell you that much.
I think legal weed was mainly the thing that made me attracted to California for a while. But every time I just went down there, there's just too many fucking people, dude. That's my problem with it but that's also the same reason I try not to go to Portland or Seattle like more than I need to. I'm not really into like being sandwiched in with a bunch of people. California would be rad if it wasn't for all the fucking Californians, you know. Yeah. And some of those motherfuckers are starting to move up here now too.
Yeah.
It's like this isn't that, man, you know. I think if I had to, honestly, Mario because it's like this insane fever dream Blade Runner thing that incorporates characters from a video game that are wholly unrelated to Blade Runner or any of that. I really think that they did a good job too of transferring the themes and various characters to live action counterparts. The Wizard is rad and it's a fun romp, and I think maybe it's probably the movie I could revisit the most often because it's just fun, benign, like retro, nostalgic fun. But if I had to say which was the better of the two movies, you got to go with Mario because the production on that was insane. Not the problems they had, but just the level to which they were building those sets and the special effects and everything. I mean, it's a proper fucking solid powerhouse of a 90s visual effects and set design film, in my opinion. So I guess it's subjective, but I would say the better movie is Mario, but maybe the more enjoyable, like regular viewing would be for The Wizard.
I mean,
is
yeah,
that fair? Or does that make
kid,
sense?
As a kid, I definitely like The Wizard better because it was very much. I mean, as a kid, you could follow along with that movie, and like what you said earlier, the Mario movie, like you watched that when it came out in '89 or no, it was in 93 maybe, something like that. So, I mean, I was like 7 or 8, so I was in first or second grade. So I went into it, I'm sure, expecting like the video game, like I'm sure everybody did. So it was definitely a lot different and a lot harder to follow as a kid.
It is, it's like it depends on what you're quantifying as better, right? Like from a filmmaking standpoint, Mario blows The Wizard out of the water.
For sure.
But The Wizard is super fucking fun, dude. And I'm a huge fan of like road trip movies like that. Even unrelated to video games. Like there's this TV movie back in the day I used to watch all the time called On Our Own, where it's about like this family of kids that were like in this foster situation, or like their mom died because of drugs and they don't want to go to a foster home. So they end up like rounding up all this gas money, which feels like it's like $12, but it was like the early 90s or whatever. So in a Volkswagen Bug, which is what they used to travel across the country as a bunch of minors, maybe it could have got them to Arizona or wherever they were going, but they basically travel across the country to go visit their uncle, hoping that he'll take them in and keep them all together as opposed to them getting split up and sent to these foster homes. But there's just something about a road trip movie, especially if it involves kids, but just road trip movies in general, that I fucking love. Starman is another good example of a great road trip movie. What's that one that Clint Eastwood directed with Kevin Costner and that little kid, where he like kind of accidentally kidnaps this kid, but then it turns into just like a awesome buddy fucking road trip movie until Kevin Costner gets shot at the end, and then it's really sad. But there's something about a good fucking road trip movie that really gets my juices flowing, No, man, see, that's the thing. You're not derailing
perfect
anything.
World.
Yeah, we're always into all manner of schlock and entertainment over here. We already got our business done with the 80s horror showcase there, and there's plenty of good recommendations for you to check out, but this type of input is welcomed.
Yeah, I mean, last night we went on a big wrestling tangent for quite a while.
Yeah. Probably like a good 40 minutes. It was
a good chunk. Cause we had, I mean, I could, like I said earlier, I could go on that all day. That movie was called A Perfect World.
What's worse too is like maybe until Mario, well, okay, I think the Sonic movies set a new precedent for being like good video game movies. I still haven't seen those, but I've heard good feedback from enough trusted sources that I'm more intrigued to check them out.
Well, to their credit, they went back and changed Sonic. I mean, that could have been a very, very different movie if they would have went off the original.
But until then, I mean, by and large, the only good video game movies we had was like the Mario movie and the Wizard. All the other ones kind of sucked. I mean, I love House of the Dead because it's ass, though.
I like the first Mortal Kombat.
Okay, yes, that's also another. That one is right there with Mario for me. The first Mortal Kombat. I like Annihilation or whatever the second one was quite a bit, but that first one is a goddamn classic.
Street Fighter was good for the wrong reasons. I don't think I've watched Double Dragon since it came out, but I don't remember liking it.
It's ass, but I do enjoy it. I guess you could argue Surf Ninjas is kind of a video game movie.
That's true. Yeah, that Andre doc on HBO is good.
Yeah, they weren't fucking around with that.
There's
one of the better wrestling docs it's not even a wrestling doc. It's really just a documentary about Andre, and he was more than just a wrestler, you know.
Yeah, we mentioned it last night. If you're a fan of those old wrestler docs, there's an Iron Sheik one on Tubi that pulls no punches and goes very much into detail about what he's been up to the last 20 years or so. So it's, even if you knew about it, it's still a good watch. Hint, hint.
I still haven't seen those Uncharted movies either, but I was intrigued by them because I like the Uncharted games. I'm a sucker for the Indiana Jones, like Pulp Fiction sort of, not Pulp Fiction the movie, but Pulp Fiction, like old adventure stories that were published in magazines kind of vibe that has. And, you know, the old adventure serials and stuff like that obviously Indiana Jones is inspired by too. So I'm definitely down to check those out. Street Fighter fucking rules, dude. If for anything but Raul Julia being the epitome of Bison. You could not have found a better dude to play M. Bison than Raul Julia.
Yeah, but you couldn't have found a better American to play Guile either than Jean-Claude Van Damme.
American? You're not wrong. Okay. I'm going to refer to him as an American from now on.
As you should. He had the tattoo on his arm. Which I love Van Damme. Like I wish he would come out and like have another resurgence.
We're going to get into a little Van Damme shit right now, actually. You've inspired me, but I have to step away for 1 minute.
Yes, great quote. Yeah, check out that Sheik doc. I'm pretty sure it's on Tubi. You'll like it. I did see that, and I thought maybe like it'd be in early April. I started to get worried about when did this post on the 1st, and am I just now seeing it? So I didn't read any details about it, but I'm down for a new Street Fighter movie. It'll be cool. I mean, didn't they do a Chun-Li movie? Am I thinking of something else? Did they do a Chun-Li movie?
Yeah, they did a couple of them, I think, or at least one, but I feel like there was a couple of them. There has been Street Fighter movies since that first one, and a new one getting announced it's kind of like the new Mortal Kombat movie, right? Like, you got to go into it with a healthy amount of skepticism and reservations, because do we really need that now? Is the vibe going to be, at all what we want? The Mortal Kombat movie seemed to be setting up for something cool, but there's also the risk with these that we're not going to get more than one of them. But because of the way Hollywood movies work now, they're going to set it up for sequels that we might never get. So I'm very leery when it comes to stuff like that. Like, it's exciting that they're announcing it, but I might wait until the full trilogy is completed if that ever happens or something. Same thing with Mortal Kombat. Like, I've watched a few minutes of it, but then people told me oh, it sets up for more movies, and there hasn't really been word about that I've seen. So,
I mean, I know that one got thrown on HBO Max. So, I mean, if anything, some of these movies have a bigger chance of getting a sequel just because they can be streaming sequels.
And that might be true, but it's just I've been burned too many times by incompleted things like that for me
yeah, for sure.
I guess want to jump in on it on the ground floor, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't blame it.
It's like these new shows that come out, right? Like Last of Us, okay? It sounds great, and people that we trust their opinions keep telling me that it's great. But I'm waiting until it's finished, man. I can't, my heart can't take it, I can't get invested in some shit and then just have
I haven't heard anything bad about it, but I finally remembered before the month went through several months back to finally cancel HBO Max because I just wasn't watching it. So I really don't want to start it up again just for one series and then I'll forget and pay several months for it. Like, I'm gonna wait until they pack some stuff on there that I want to see a lot of it before I want to throw in another $15 on another streaming service.
Makes sense. Yeah, it's just why pay for the downtime that you're not even watching anything,
Yeah.
But yeah, on that Van Damme tip, do you have a quick top 3 favorite Van Damme movies?
I would definitely put Street Fighter in there. I'm sure if I had more time, I could come up with a better list. Yeah, definitely Street Fighter. I liked. God, I've got so many Van Damme movies too.
There's a lot.
Like, I've got so many of those 3 and 4 packs of like the old '90s stuff. What's the? Oh my god. What do you? Cyborg.
That's a good
I
one.
like that one. It was a good canon movie. I think didn't Pune do that one?
I think he did. Yes. Rest in peace.
Yeah, and then there was a. I'm sure I could think of something better, but there was a newer one that came out. I say newer, probably the last 10 years, called Enemies Closer, and like he just plays like a nut job, kind of like just not killer crazy, but like more just goofy off the wall. So just seeing him do something very different, I really liked. I like that real fake show they did on Amazon, the Jean-Claude Van Johnson.
Oh, where he fights the tiger or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's some good stuff. I also really did enjoy him as a villain in that Expendables movie. I thought that was pretty dope.
I was really hopeful that would kind of shotgun him into doing some more stuff, and I mean it did. It upped his direct-to-video game, which is direct-to-video, even though it's not video anymore. But I mean, I would love to see him get a resurgence, get another theatrical movie. Like, I mean, he basically did the Nicolas Cage Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, 20 years before that when he did the JCVD movie.
Yeah, I never saw that, but
he was playing himself, like, and he was able to foil a bank robbery or something like that. I haven't seen it in a long time, but it was good. He's, I would say, my top 3 favorite action stars.
Well, that's why I wanted to elaborate on it, because it's came up a lot of times between us, but never really on air. Because we haven't really dove into like much of the action or martial arts world on here yet, which we need to change. I think Lost Faith is a good springboard into that. But.
We've talked about doing canon episodes. I mean, we could definitely. I think doing these 1s and 2s and 3s will be a real easy way to kind of hammer some stuff out. We could do. I mean, each one of us picks a Van Damme movie, or each one of us picks, a Bronson movie or something like that. And we can kind of just round robin those 3, because I mean, a lot of those movies you don't really have to talk too much about substance. You can just,
dude, what we should do is Van Dammuary, where we do just Van Damme movies every January.
I am 1,000% down for that.
Bloodsport, Cyborg, and Hard Target are Comic Shop's favorites, and those are all fucking good, dude.
Yeah,
they really are.
There's a John Woo movie, if I remember right.
I mean, honestly, I think Van Damme's the only person I could put up there with, and we all know that like Steven Seagal is an absolute queef nowadays, and his movies suck. He sucks. We get it, but the early '90s, like late '80s output of Seagal was top fucking tier, dude.
Oh, he was huge.
And now the only dude that I think I would put. Well, yeah, he's huge in a different way. I think the only dude's output that I would put on that same level would be Van Damme, because it was just great movie after great movie for a long time. It's almost like
that was the version of Canon doing the 2 stacks for the Chucks. It was basically like the film studios would do like a Seagal or Van Damme movie.
Right.
Like those were the ones that were kind of interchangeable, and we're getting like that was one of those, like there was always a movie with one of them, or they each had a movie coming out like almost all the time.
Yeah, it did overlap pretty well. And I mean, but I'm talking more just the consistency of the quality, right? Like there's a lot of, Arnie movies that I like, for example, that are all right. But, it feels like Arnold, Stallone, Chuck Norris, dudes like that, like they had a lot of great movies, but there was some duds like in between there. Whereas it's like the Seagal fucking output for a while and the Van Damme output for a while were basically flawless for me. Like not a bad movie in the bunch for a huge chunk of their early careers,
Yeah, I mean, to Van Damme's credit, like he's still in shape too. He's not jacked or like he used to be, but I mean, to his credit, for him just being the direct-to-video guy for quite a while, like he's still, like I remember that commercial where he's doing the splits between those 2 semis. you seen that commercial?
Yeah.
It's so good.
I remember random story, but for a long time I thought I'd seen Jean-Claude's balls because there was this dude. There was like these Penthouse issues that I read as a kid, where in the back they had like, I guess like a celebrity lookalike section. I also thought I saw Roseanne naked for a long time too because of Penthouse. So thanks. I didn't understand that they were like lookalikes, you know, because when you're like a young man and you're seeing these magazines, you're like, whoa, boobs, and oh my god, is that Jean-Claude's balls? Yeah. But it was just some dude who really, really looked like him, so they published him in the magazine. Later, I did some research and figured this out, but for a solid few years as a kid, I thought that I saw Roseanne naked and Jean-Claude's balls within the span of 5 minutes, you know. It was kind of traumatizing. Bloodsport's going to be a heavy contender for all of these lists. I think, like, if I wanted to be a contrarian or whatever, I would put The Quest on there. But who are we kidding? Bloodsport's the better of the two films. So that would definitely be on my list. Universal Soldier would be on my list. It's just amazing. I love that first Universal Soldiers movie. And then I think Lionheart...
That's a good one.
Would probably be my third favorite. There's just something about that movie that I love. It's got like this gritty video game vibe to it.
That's when he was just getting started too.
He has like a dope power mullet in it too. So
as he should.
Yeah, those would be my top 3. But there's so many that could be interchangeable depending on my mood too.
Yeah, he did a lot, and of course. He did some canon movies, so that's always gonna have a special place in my heart.
Yeah, he was great when he was great, and then he did some not so great stuff, like even when he was still pretty famous. Do you remember that movie that he did with Dennis Rodman?
Double Team.
Yeah, I was so hyped on that because I was pretty big into the NBA as a kid too, for a lot of years. And when Double Team was coming out, I was so fucking pumped. And I'll admit that I do find the movie pretty fun. But it's not great, man.
No,
it's not great. Another one that I found pretty boring was it The Legionnaire? I think is that movie that he did.
That was kind of the beginning of the end of his theatrical run.
Well, they tried to make him like a serious, like, what is this? The English Patient? I don't give a fuck about any of this. Where are the roundhouse kicks and splits and awesome buff dude stuff? Like it. They tried to make like some serious Hollywood, period piece with Jean-Claude Van Damme, and people could not have given less of a shit.
I also like Sudden Death, the hockey movie that he did.
I don't think I've seen that.
Like there was a bomb in the hockey stadium or something like that, and he has to find it.
Yeah, not one of his best, but it's also not the worst.
It's a fun 90s action movie.
Yes. Albert Pian was he's missed. Another dude that was a fan of the power mullet and board shorts. So double points for Albert. There's a lot of that dude's drip is stuff I'm a fan of that I wish I could pull off. I just don't got it, man. I'm not like a sick Hawaiian guy. Like, yeah, you actually own it.
I didn't pay much for it.
Thank God.
It's in an old Blockbuster case. I probably got it when they went out of business for $1, and I probably still. And what's funny is it's completely clean. Like this was probably one of the ones where they, bought like 70 copies, and it was like one of those, it's in or it's free. You remember when they used to do that?
Yeah.
Like they would have it in stock, or the next rental was free. So they
I feel like
they loaded up on this and didn't need to at all.
Yeah. Most of those probably went unpurchased. They're in a fucking landfill somewhere.
I saved one of them.
I feel like it's the type of thing I could watch now and probably find some appreciation for. But 12-year-old Mo was like, "The fuck is this?"
Yeah,
Isn't there like a part where he like basically bangs a leopard in the desert or something?
I don't know. I go through these spurts where I get really into something, and then I kind of want it all now. So like when I went on like a Van Damme thing, like I was just buying what I could, and he's got like 4 or 5 4-packs out, so I was loading up on those, and then a lot of his stuff you could find on eBay for 99 cents, and then $2 shipping and whatever. But I've watched maybe 10% of them.
I feel like there's a scene in it. Maybe I'm just imagining this. I hope not, because I don't know what that would say about my subconscious. But I feel like there's a scene in Legionnaire where, because the whole gimmick of it, I think, is that he's like a deserter from the army or something.
Yeah.
And then he like wanders through the desert, and there's this part where I think he's like gonna freeze to death because the desert gets like super cold at night or whatever.
Right.
And I think he comes across some type of a big cat. Maybe it's not a leopard. I'm not sure what it is. A puma, maybe. I don't know. I just wanted to say puma. But it's some type of big cat. And I feel like he just like cuddles with it while naked to, use its body heat or something. And I'm not sure what sort of, what message they're trying to put across with this. Or maybe they just wanted buff Jean-Claude Van Damme in the nude, like cuddling with a panther or something. It gave me weird vibes, and still does describing it, actually. It feels pretty fucked up. And I think that's in that movie, Legionnaire.
Now I want to watch it.
Why not? Poor kitty. Fucking, some buff French dude just makes you cuddle naked with it. Imagine what's going on in that cat's head. It's a well-trained animal because it just sort of lies there, but it's, oh man, what are you doing, Jean-Claude? So yeah, didn't enjoy that one. It's not one that I've actually ever seen again, and I don't know if I finished it at the time. I do remember that I rented it though, because you just, as a rule, you rented the new Jean-Claude movie when it came out, or the new Steven Seagal movie or whatever. I feel like they kind of fell off for a bit at the same time, but Jean-Claude has had a much more graceful fall from relevance than Steven Seagal did. I can't remember the first bad Steven Seagal movie that I watched, but I know it was like right after Glimmerman and Fire Down Below in there. I feel like the first one of Van Damme that I watched where I knew it was getting pretty cheeseball, though, was that the one with Rodman.
I'm almost just intrigued with Stallone because I like his occasional like Cajun accent.
Stallone?
Like not Stallone, Jesus, Seagal.
Okay, because I was like when does he do a Cajun accent? I need that in my life immediately.
You remember when he did that Steven Seagal Lawman?
Yes, I do.
Where it's like all my life I've been doing these movies and nobody knew that for the last 25 years
I've secretly been Cajun.
Yeah.
What a fucking idiot.
Yeah, and he'll when he's doing that lawman, like he's got the accent down because he's around those people, and then it's slipped into some of his movies, and it's not through the whole movie either. It'll just be a line or two out of nowhere, and then he goes back to just his whisper talk.
He was super guilty on there a lot of the time too of taking on the black accent when he was talking to black people.
Yep.
And he actually did a whole movie where he does the black accent the whole time. I agree. I find his modern output pretty fascinating, and the pure schlock, absolute trash, like just no redeeming quality entertainment sort of thing.
It's terrible. Like he does a lot of it. The movie's dubbed over, and it's not dubbed over by his voice. Obvious doubles in place for him. Like it's not him any fight scene whatsoever. Like he's very out of shape and just is lazy. Like I watched one of the movies where he sat down and had a fight.
Whole time.
Yeah.
He does that through a lot of his newer films. I think the thing that made it even more crushing, even more than learning about all of his lies and all of the bullshit that Steven Seagal has pulled, is just that realization eventually that we could all kick his ass. Aikido is absolute bullshit. It's basically Tai Chi. It's an exercise. It's sort of like a joint ballet kind of a thing more than it is a real martial art. So that was kind of the first realization with Steven Seagal. Once I got more into MMA and like actually learned a little bit about fighting and stuff like that from watching shit like that thing doesn't work. You can just go all over YouTube and find Aikido dudes getting absolutely demolished by actual fighters,
Right.
So you could beat Steven Seagal's ass, Cody, without putting in too much effort into it, I'm pretty sure. So that was the first blow, but then just also seeing him absolutely not give a shit about maintaining any type of action hero fucking physique also made it pretty whack too. So that's the combination of the two. Like, not only could we beat Steven Seagal's ass, but we would feel pretty bad about it too. Like we beat up our drunk stepdad or something, you know?
Right.
Wouldn't even be a satisfying victory. But if you want to watch some real terrible fucking action movies, check out those Steven Seagal flicks that he's done
of them
in the last 20 years, you know?
Non-stop, a new one at Redbox. Kind of like the Bruce Willis stuff for a while.
Which Bruce Willis at least had a good reason for doing it, right? Like he had that degenerative thing where he was trying to get as much work in as possible before he couldn't do it anymore. Steven Seagal does not have that excuse, you know?
For sure, and it makes you feel bad that like I've watched YouTube channels of people that just review those Bruce Willis movies, and they're very, very harsh.
Oh, I talked shit about several of them. Yeah, and in hindsight, I feel a little bad about it. But we didn't have the context.
Exactly.
It just seemed like for a bit, Bruce Willis would do any fucking movie that was offered to him. And it turned out that was largely the truth, but there was a reason for it, you know?
Yep.
Whereas on the flip side, Seagal is like the mastermind behind some of the shit that he's done in the last,
right. Some of
15 years. And it's fucking embarrassing.
He's done a lot that are very much like his movies.
Yeah, it's gross. But man, some of those early ones were kick ass. I mean, to me, on par with any of the Van Damme stuff that was coming out. Above the Law is an absolute classic. Hard to Kill is dope. Under Siege 1 and 2, in my opinion, are both great. I really like the second one a lot as well. Marked for Death, where he's going against the badass supernatural voodoo fucking samurai dude.
I think he's got an accent in that movie too.
He might have a bit of an accent. I mean, Out for Justice is a goddamn classic. Probably his most brutal movie by far is Out for Justice, I think. And then even some of the later stuff like Glimmer Man and Fire Down Below were pretty good. And something like Ticker isn't totally horrible to see him playing kind of a different style of a role. But then after that, it just goes garbage and fast.
Yep.
What was the one that he did with DMX? That one was pretty decent.
Exit Wounds.
Exit Wounds, yeah, I liked that one.
And then he did Half Past Dead with Ja Rule.
I feel like I don't remember liking that one.
I want to say they were both pretty close together. I think Exit Wound, I'm going to say probably came out first because I think that one did okay. So he just kind of...
That must have been where he learned his black sense.
That's right. X can give it to you.
Rough. Rest in peace to DMX as well.
Yeah.
Also sorely missed. I don't know. Stallone kind of has always just done like Rocky shit. And then, I mean, he's had movies here and there, but I feel like some of the stuff wasn't my favorite. Like Assassins is one I always feel like I remember thinking was just okay. And the Expendables, that stuff is fun. You know, it's very much some rad, like beer and popcorn action shit, but it's really just nostalgia wanking the whole time. So it's not the type of stuff I can watch like regularly. And I think I even crapped out before like the last Expendables movie when I was trying to marathon.
The third one's pretty bad. They went PG-13, and it's more so. I think they did that one to try to extend it because they brought in like a bunch of the younger action people, like Ronda Rousey's in it. Not Chris Hemsworth, but his brother, Liam, I think. He's in, like, they brought in a lot of younger people to hopefully like extend it out to where they can make their own movies and like have the little 5-minute scene where they go back and talk to like Stallone and Statham or something like that. And then that's about it.
Right. And I mean, it's clear that that's where it was going to go from the beginning, but I really do like the first couple.
The first two are great.
But I mean, it's, you know, again, it's just nostalgia wanking. Like it exists because the previous movies exist. I think for Stallone, my favorite movies are probably Demolition Man, Cobra, and Over the Top. And Over the Top's really not even an action movie. It's kind of Rocky adjacent in that it's about like a sport, you know?
Right. Yeah, I mean, I've liked some Stallone movies, but he's never. I've always liked Arnold better, or Van Damme better, or I mean, Chuck or Chuck. Like it's Stallone's always just been. He has some good movies, but that's about it.
He's the lower tier of all of them, and I mean, of course, you know, the Rambo movies got to get their due. But again, that's like, you know, Rambo and Rocky is kind of Stallone's thing, and then he's done some movies here and there throughout. I mean, obviously, plenty of films, but you know, those are the ones that stand out to me in terms of like a personal top three. Chuck Norris has got some fucking amazing stuff out there and some ass stuff too, I guess. I mean,
yeah, the stuff he's been doing, I want to say last 20 years or so, are just terrible. They're like propaganda movies.
You got top three with Chuck?
Ooh.
Let's
Lone
just throw
Wolf.
Sidekicks out there right now as an honorable mention because, you know, we got to put the kick-ass ones on the list. Sidekicks is like...
Sidekicks is getting a either a Blu-ray or a 4K.
Beautiful, but, you know, that's just kind of grandfathered in here. So we don't have to waste a slot on Sidekicks.
Okay.
Because we're both going to pick it anyways as one of the best, but it's in a league of its own.
I would go Lone Wolf McQuade. Oh my god, what's that movie called? It's like Hellbound or something. Where he's like, yeah, that one's good just because it's nuts. Probably Invasion USA.
Yeah, mine would be Lone Wolf McQuade, Invasion USA, and The First Missing in Action.
Which is actually the second Missing in Action.
Right. Yeah, those are the top three. The Octagon, MIA 1 and 2. All solid choices as well. You know who doesn't really get... I mean, I guess he does, but it's like... We kind of hold Clint Eastwood in a different realm of action, right? Like he's more of the hard-boiled cop dude or whatever. He's not necessarily known for like martial arts or anything like that. But I still think of him as an action hero in a lot of ways, in the same vein as the dudes we've been talking about. And I like a lot of Clint Eastwood movies, you know.
I mean, he's definitely a different kind of tough.
Yeah, more that classic American cheese fucking style of smelling like Old Spice and tobacco. Fucking
That's
just
right.
Out there fucking pulling guns and driving cars and doing all that cool stuff. You guys got top three favorite Eastwood movie?
I don't think I do.
I think for me, definitely The Gauntlet has to be on there. The first Dirty Harry movie. And it's not really an action movie, but I think The Adventures of Bronco Billy is a really good one too. Where he's just kind of like running this traveling Wild West show. And it's more of like a romantic comedy, but I really love that movie a lot. But more action oriented, I guess. You mean we could throw like really any of the Sergio Leone stuff in there. Probably for me, A Fistful of Dollars. Those are good too. And you know what's that one that he did with was it Martin Sheen, where they're partners or whatever? It's kind of like a Lethal Weapon type movie that he did with Martin Sheen. And I think Raul Julia plays the fucking, or Charlie Sheen, that's what I meant.
The Rookie.
The Rookie, yeah, that movie fucking kicks ass, dude. Raul Julia is like a unhinged fucking villain in that movie too.
Yeah, I like that. A very young Charlie Sheen. That was a good movie. I like that one, even though he was a racist prick. I like Gran Torino.
See, but that's, and maybe this is, you know, like excusing it more than it should, but that's that old school like patriotic racism that really isn't racism by the end of the movie. It's more prejudice, you know, like that's how my grandpa was sort of racist, was that
he's very much the angry old man on the porch.
Yeah, he wasn't trying to fuck with like Asians or Germans for a while after the Second World War. I mean, you can't really blame him that much, you know.
I mean, I don't think they could have done that movie today.
Gran Torino, I think they still could. I mean, I think the overall message of it, once you get to the end of the movie and you see how they bond together, and then the dude literally like goes out, trying to protect them, it brings it full circle enough that you're
But
like,
I think it would get destroyed, and people wouldn't even go to watch it just because of. I think people would go out of their way to make you make a decision before you watch it and choose not to watch it.
that could be true. I guess we'll never know, obviously, because the movie was pretty great. And there's no reason to remake it or anything.
Right.
Maybe 20 years from now, though, they'll run out of ideas again and they'll be remaking that shit. There's some cool later output of Clint Eastwood, though. What's that one? It's like blood work or heart work or something.
I think blood work.
Yeah, where he like gets the heart of a serial killer, isn't it?
Something like that.
Some shit like that. Yeah, and he's able to do like some Lance Henriksen Millennium style stuff where he was like getting visions and shit like that. And it was like kind of a cool sort of return to horror and that kind of, vibe. Because Play Misty for me is a classic Clint Eastwood movie. Anybody that's a fan of like stalker films, like if you liked Swim Fan or 1 Hour Photo, you're gonna fucking dig Play Misty for me.
1 Hour Photo is great.
Love it. Basically in Play Misty for me, Clint Eastwood plays a DJ, and there's this caller that always calls up and asks him to play Misty for me. And he does it, but it turns out that this girl is like seriously obsessed with him, and it gets fucking nuts, dude. Play Misty for me is kind of that Clint Eastwood movie that I think horror fans know about, but a lot of like regular old Eastwood fans have kind of forgotten about.
Yeah, it's not their Dirty Harry.
Yeah, so it's like they're not regularly revisiting that one like they should, but it's pretty dope.
I think
part of a serial killer victim, and the killer lives next to him. Yeah, that's. I mean, obviously you're right. I remember renting it and liking it, and it was a cool throwback. What were you gonna say, Cuddy?
I think the more I think about it, like, I think I put in a higher regard a lot of Robin Williams not funny movies as movies that I really, really like.
Oh yeah, especially 1 Hour Photo.
1 Hour Photo, I loved. I really liked Insomnia. Did that one with Al Pacino.
Yeah, chasing them over the log run and shit.
Yeah, they were like, what are they in Alaska or something?
Yeah,
that was good.
What Dreams May Come. That's a absolute epic. What Dreams May Come.
Final Cut was pretty crazy, where he like spliced people's lives together after they died, like to make a little like videography of their life. Like he was like I don't remember what they were called, a cutter or something, but like it'd be like a video of someone's entire life, and he had to go through it all and splice it, like to make
I don't think I saw that.
Like to make an in memoriam of him, like for the family, like almost a greatest hits of that person's life. I don't remember what happened, but it was like a thriller. I would definitely, I would recommend checking it out. I loved Death to Smoochie.
That's one I got to revisit. I only saw a partial viewing of it, like on a rental years and years ago.
But I really like Edward Norton, so that was kind of like a 1-2 punch for me.
Hold down the fort for 1 sec.
I know there's some other like just really out there Robin Williams movie. Yeah, 1 Hour Photo is fantastic. I'm sure he got regard for it when those movies came out, but I don't think that he gets. I don't feel like they talk about those as much as they should. But it's for somebody that could be, start off in stand up and be that funny and do that many funny movies, and then to pull a 180 is a very rare thing, and most people wouldn't even give him the chance. It's kind of like with Adam Sandler and Uncut Gems. I went into that thinking I was going to hate it, because I for the last 15 years can't stand Adam Sandler. Like, he's just rolling out so much crap. Like, I was really excited for Pixels and really disappointed.
Yeah, it was just lukewarm at best. There's people who love it, but yeah, I don't know. I think with Robin Williams, Good Will Hunting and like, what is it, Dead Poets Society, kind of steal a lot of the limelight from his other more serious roles that we've mentioned. And it ends up being a lot of genre fans like us that appreciate a lot of his other shit, because it was more like thrillers or horror films or like weird fantasy explorations of the afterlife, like in What Dreams May Come,
Yeah.
Not exactly the shit someone rolling up to Patch Adams is signing up for,
Right, or Mrs. Doubtfire.
Yeah, and that's totally fine, respect. But I think Robin Williams definitely deserves more appreciation for his serious roles, and including Dead Poet Society and Good Will Hunting. Those are fine films. Not my favorites, but worth seeing. The Fisher King is a super underrated Robin Williams movie that I think a lot more people need to see, and I think people on both sides of the spectrum could appreciate it. Have you ever seen The Fisher King?
It's been a long time.
Oh, it's a fucking masterpiece, dude. I'm not even gonna attempt to explain it here because there's a lot to The Fisher King, and we could spend a lot of time on that. But anybody that wants a truly magnificent, film experience that maybe includes people like Robin Williams, and what's the dude who plays the dude in Big Lebowski? Jeff Bridges. Yeah, he's the other lead in the movie.
Right.
And they're just phenomenal together. It's one of the only films that still regularly makes me cry. It's the
I also really like Jack when that one came out.
Jack is great, but
that kind of he towed the line on that one of doing like there's funny stuff. I mean, I watched that when I was a kid, but there's still like that's still a sad movie for sure, especially when it's like his body's shutting down on him and he's still a kid.
They were kind of fucking with us for a little bit back in the day with those movies where it was about like kids that were gonna die and stuff. So it was like a super fun movie, but then they die at the end. Like Simon Birch is another one.
My Girl.
Yeah. What the fuck, man? It's powerful stuff though, I don't know. Back on that action tip though, what are your favorites of the Lethal Weapon films? I think that's a good thing to go into here.
This might be a short and sweet one, but I've never seen a Lethal Weapon movie.
Are you fucking kidding, Cody? Oh my god. Are you serious?
And my parents love those movies, and I've thought about getting back into them because I like Joe Pesci, or not getting back into them, but revisiting them. But I've never really cared for Mel Gibson, and this isn't like a Passion of the Christ thing. It's just for me as an act. I think the only time I liked him in Get the Gringo. And I really liked him as the bad guy in, what was he in the first Machete? Was he the bad guy in that one? I don't know, one of those action movies where he was the bad guy. Like I like those, but for him, he was never anybody that I watched because he was in it.
I like a lot of Mel Gibson movies, but I guess I kind of see where you're coming from too. I think him as the Riggs character in Lethal Weapon though is probably his best role. It just works, man. I mean, like that and Mad Max are the two things I'll always think of Mel Gibson for. And if you just like buddy cop movies, you'll enjoy at least the first three Lethal Weapons. And the fourth Lethal Weapon was actually pretty good too. They got Jet Li involved in it. And
then Chris Rock was in that one, wasn't he?
I believe so, yes.
I like Chris Rock.
They're a good time. I think, you're probably not going to be sold on most of Mel Gibson's output because I feel like I'm kind of in the same boat with you on a lot of it, even though I do enjoy some of his movies. But Lethal Weapon, you should reappraise for sure, dude. I think that there's, that's the thing. Yeah, he's part of the buddy cop duo, but you also have Danny Glover, and then you have Joe Pesci.
Yeah.
You've got the whole ensemble cast really that makes up the Lethal Weapon universe there, because Murtaugh's family is heavily involved in the movies as well. They're just great, man. I love them a lot. I'd put it right up there with like Die Hard of those, that action series that I've kind of got to like do a marathon of once every couple of years, Well, that was short and sweet. My favorite Lethal Weapon movie is probably Lethal Weapon 2. But I do obviously have an appreciation for 1, 3, and 4 as well. The first Lethal Weapon movie is a fucking classic, but there's just something about Lethal Weapon 2 that really, really just hits the spot every time that I watch it. You know? Yeah. I think actually, what is it? Lethal Weapon 1 is also a Christmas movie. No, actually, I think that's Lethal Weapon 2, where the girl does the cocaine and jumps out the window. I think they cover most of the holidays in Lethal Weapon, actually, because one of them's like a Thanksgiving movie as well. Or they bridge the gap between Christmas and Thanksgiving, and then something like that.
Yeah.
So Die Hard, you've seen, I assume.
Of course. And he becomes basically a superhero by the third or fourth one, and the last two, what they made 6 of them, 5 or 6. If they made 6, I didn't care for the last 2 at all. Like,
I've not seen them.
One of them had a son.
Good.
Maybe there's 5 of them. I think the last one was called A Good Day to Die Hard, and he finds out he has a son who's like in his 30s or whatever, and I didn't care for it.
Yeah, I haven't seen those new ones, man. I've got like the Blu-ray set of all the Die Hard movies, but I've still just keep stopping at Die Hard 3. Die Hard with a Vengeance.
I think the set I have just has the first 4, which I'm fine with that.
I love Die Hard. Not so much Die Hard 2, but Die Hard 3 I love a lot as well. Die Hard 2 just felt like, Die Hard with a Vengeance rules. I mean, him and Samuel L. Jackson palling around, if you can call it that, through the movie.
Can't beat that.
Die Hard 2 felt very much like they just did Die Hard again in an airport, and it's okay. But, I always enjoy watching it, but it's very much the intermission movie in that marathon. Because
they just rolled that one out because Die Hard was a surprise hit.
Yeah. The first Die Hard's a fucking masterpiece, in my opinion.
Like, I've watched, I don't remember if it was the Movies That Made Us on Netflix. They did one on Die Hard talking about how nobody wanted Bruce Willis to be in it, like to the point where the initial posters didn't have him on the poster. It was just a poster of the tower, the building.
Oh, like the explosion at the top or something.
Yeah, like when the movie got successful and people really liked Bruce Willis, they redid the poster, made it like half his face in the building, or I can see it in my head. It's something along that. But like they didn't want him in it because he was a guy from Moonstruck. Couldn't see him as a cop and a tough guy, even though he's an ordinary guy in the first Die Hard.
That's what makes him rad. He's an ordinary dude with no shoes running around. He's just your average like cop.
Yeah.
In most movies, he'd be just like one of the random crime scene guys in a scene. Yeah. But in Die Hard, he gets to be the main dude. That's what makes it have appeal. Obviously, though, there probably wasn't a lot of precedent for that, maybe. So I can understand some hesitance with that. He's done some great movies, though, Bruce Willis, over the years. The ones, though, that I'm definitely like mostly outside of Die Hard that I remember aren't necessarily like huge action movies or anything, though.
Look Who's Talking?
Yeah, it's shit like that, or even Moonstruck, or I guess the closest to it would be like The Last Boy Scout. I really like that movie a lot.
Damon Wayans.
Yeah, that's a good fucking movie, actually.
Yeah, that's good.
It's weird that it doesn't get talked about more often.
Fifth Element. That one was fun.
Yeah, it goes fantastical enough though that it doesn't feel like the same kind of action movie that we've been talking about. But it's like, I love The Fifth Element. It's one of my favorite movies of the era. You
got Mila Jovovich in that one.
Oh, so hot in that too. There was something about it at the time.
Well, she just basically had a strap for a shirt.
Yeah. It might have been one of the first set of boobies I'd seen outside of a horror film too. Where maybe not the first set of boobies I'd seen outside of a horror film, but the first set of boobies I'd seen outside of a horror film in a movie with like a mixed crowd, where it wasn't just like me and my parents, or so. It was like I watched The Fifth Element with a whole group of people.
Yeah.
So it was odd. It was oddly tantalizing. You know what I mean? I like it a lot, though. Chris Rock's in that as well.
Yeah, there's definitely.
No, it's Chris Tucker, isn't it?
Yeah, Chris Tucker.
I apologize to both of the Chris's.
Yeah, there's definitely. I like more Bruce Willis movies than I do definitely Stallone.
His ball sack I for sure have seen in that movie. I think it's The Color of Night.
And if you go,
and he's like banging this girl in a hot tub, and you for sure see Bruce's family jewels. And
they paid him extra for that.
Yeah,
if you
it's
follow,
just so you don't see your movie hero's balls. It's not the same thing as seeing a pair of boobies.
That's what the people wanted.
I guess for some people it is, but not for me. You
gotta take the good with the bad.
Yep, I guess so. Bruce Willis in The Sixth Sense was pretty good as well.
I didn't watch that one for years because I already knew the ending.
Which is unfortunate. Sixth Sense really was one of those films that, unless you caught it in that first wave, you were kind of
SOL with the. It was the same thing with Fight Club. But Fight Club's still one of my favorite movies of all time. Haven't watched it in years, but love it. But before I watched that movie, a buddy of mine was like, "Hey, to make the movie make sense, you need to realize they're the same person." Like that's.
But why would you tell someone that before they've seen it?
I love twist endings, especially those kind where you're just. No way. And then you see like the flashbacks of some of the scenes where they're sharing a beer, or he's fighting himself, or, he's sleeping with Marla. But it's like, that's like walking out of, Empire Strikes Back and like, man, I can't believe Darth Vader's his dad.
What the fuck are you doing, bro? You can't do that to people.
Dick move.
Fight Club, I was obsessed with that movie for a little bit. Like, I think a lot of people that watch, there's those movies you hit in life that are like weird and you feel like you've got to continually view them to unpack them, and Fight Club was right up on the list with that.
I had full-size movie poster in my house when that movie, like around high school, had the t-shirt with the bar soap on it.
I didn't go that far, but I've always been curious about reading the book.
The author,
Chuck Palahniuk or whatever. Dude, that guy's like a legit fucking weirdo.
He is a great author though. Like I've read several of his books. Another one of his books got made into a movie, although it was kind of just rushed. I don't want to say it, just direct to video. Like Sam Rockwell played it. It was Choke. It was about a guy that would pretend to choke to death at restaurants, and somebody would save him, and for some reason they would save him and then also want to give him money. So like that was basically how he survived, was going to these restaurants and pretend he was choking. And people would somehow would feel great, cloud nine. They just saved this guy's life, and then he somehow is able to get money out of him. The book's a lot better. Fight Club is a great book. He actually did part 2 and 3 as a graphic novel. Not as good, but it's still cool he did it.
We covered those on this comic club discussion group that I used to do for a while.
Yeah, he's probably my favorite author, and just because none of his books are alike, but they're all just nuts.
Yeah, him and the dude that did American Psycho, or the
Bret Easton Ellis.
Yeah, I keep meaning to read those books and then more of their stuff, because it sounds like that bizarro, weird, fucked up, twisted fiction that I enjoy.
Oh yeah, if you ever decide to go down the Chuck alley, I can definitely recommend some of the good stuff.
Oh yeah, but yeah, just don't spoil twists to movies, people. It's fucking ridiculous. Why would you do that to a person? I mean, it removes all need to watch something like that.
I mean, at least I still love the movie. Still one of my favorite movies, but missing out on that twist, that would have just I love those parts in.
Oh, it was brilliant, because then it makes you want to watch the movie again to catch those hints. And then the more you watch it, you start realizing there's little cigarette burn moments where Travis is in the background, for just a single frame of film kind of a thing.
Yep.
So cool. I also feel though, Die Hard. Okay, Die Hard's a great example of a movie that, as rad as it is, a lot of people, myself included, have found themselves kind of annoyed with it because people talk about it so fucking often,
Oh yeah, I mean, it's something you definitely can't visit all the time.
Yeah, and anybody that's new to it, anybody that's new to it now is going to have the hurdle of the Ober hype in front of them before they even see it.
Yeah, it makes it hard for it to be a good movie that way.
And I get it, it was cool to remind people that it was a Christmas movie for a while, But then it sort of became that kind of a thing where, I mean, that's why there's memes about it now, where there's the like edgy, pop culture friend that picks Die Hard as their favorite Christmas movie or whatever. And it's like, yeah, I mean, that's funny, but is it really your favorite Christmas movie of all time?
Well, it's like the Michael Myers and Halloween 3 thing. Like, it's just that thing you can say that makes you feel smart, or it's like we've talked about before. I remember not too long ago, everybody hated Halloween 3. Everybody hated Halloween 3. And now it's one of those, like, that's everyone's like, give me answer now what their favorite Halloween movie is.
I mean, it would be mine, but I get what you're saying. Like,
but you're not a fan of Michael Myers, so that's very much a you movie. That's a sci-fi movie.
Yeah, it's and you're almost kind of like slightly embarrassed to say that now, because there's so many edgelord kids basically that are like, it's my favorite so that I could be different or whatever. And I get it, but I don't know.
It's just
yeah, there's a lot of that. And then there's movies like Fight Club where, you get told a million times how mind-blowing it is by people, and it can overhype you a bit, We're obviously not guilty of that. This is the first time we've ever fucking talked about these kind of movies really on the show. But it happens, we've all fallen victim to that shit before. Like Donnie Darko, I think, is a movie that was ruined for me by overhype before I even saw it.
Yeah, it's okay.
I was dating like this alternative emo chick at the time, and Donnie Darko was like Donnie Darko and Eraserhead were her all-time favorite movies. And Eraserhead, she did me right, okay? Like, I'd never just chugged a pint of Robitussin and fried on that shit before and watched the movie. Yeah. So I did that with this chick, and we watched Eraserhead, and it was one of the singularly most horrifying moments of my life. Yeah. But then Donnie Darko, she would not shut the fuck up about after that. And she made it sound like it was this deep, like artistic thing or whatever. And then I'm watching it, and it's like, so he's been dead the whole time. Big fucking deal.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad, but it's what bothers me about it, and it's not even anything to do with the movie. Joe Bob was here 2 or 3 weekends ago and did a double feature, and I guess he doesn't pick the movies. I guess wherever he goes to, they pick the movies. And the 2 movies they picked were Donnie Darko and Bubba Hotep. I'm not going for that. I wanted to go too. Like he came a few years back. I don't remember what he's shown, but my buddy Josh went. That does he did the Ferguson stuff with me and all that. I don't remember what they shown, but he went. And this one was like, I'm not paying $40 to get in to watch these 2 movies and then sit through.
I'd have paid $40 to get in to watch Bubba Hotep with Joe Bob if it was the first movie.
Well, and I don't think it was. And what sucked is he went to Tulsa. He went to Tulsa the next night, like another city in Oklahoma. I don't remember the 2 movies he played, but they were like 80s stuff.
You're gonna have to get me real drunk to sit through Donnie Darko as the first part of the night.
Yeah, I might leave for 2 hours and come back.
Yeah, we'll find something to do. They have like arcade games in the lobby or something.
It did, and it had a bar. So I mean, we could
have made do. We could have muscled through that. I don't know, man. It just didn't do it for me.
No, I didn't dislike it when I watched it, but I don't think I've revisited it. And then when they came out with the sequel, and it was just god awful.
Never watched it.
The S Darko about Donnie Darko's sister, like it was so stupid.
Who gives a fuck? I guess like the kids that probably went to that When We Were Young tour with all the emo bands on it. I mean, it's just a different scene. I'm not trying to hate on it. I get it. The movie had like a profound impact on her or something. I've been in that position too, where a movie was like that for me, and then other people hated it, and it can be hard to take. But different things mean different things to different people. And Donnie Darko didn't mean shit to me. It was pretty obvious that the airplane thing killed him at the beginning.
Yeah. I mean, the point I'm trying to make is 80s horror trailers.
True. Yeah. That was kind of the operative point of this. It's evolved into something else, though, which has been a really fun movie discussion.
We've got our tangents down that we start going down, which is I'm all for it. I do want to wrap this up in a few so I can get dinner going, unfortunately. But if you're planning on not doing anything later, I don't mind hopping on and off air in a bit after I get done.
Oh no, we'll kill this right here in like 6 minutes. That's cool.
Okay. Yep.
Might as well make it an even run time. It's been good times, man. I mean, sometimes you just got to shoot the shit about some movies too. That's kind of when you get right down to it, the bottom line is these shows are us talking about movies and having fun with the hobby and, indulging that. And if we run into a tangent at the end of a trailer-thon like we have tonight, I'm never going to complain about that.
I would think anyone that watches this will know that usually the first bit of the show is kind of what it's supposed to be about. And then after that, it's kind of just a round robin of what pops in anybody's head or on the chat or whatever, which makes it, we just talked for another hour and a half about all sorts of things.
Yeah. We gave you a rough breakdown of our favorite movies from almost every action hero of the day. If we're missing anybody, feel free to let us know. Jackie Chan. Favorite Jackie Chan movies for me is definitely got to be Operation Condor, Rumble in the Bronx. That third one's hard.
The New Karate Kid.
No. Part of me wants to say the first Rush Hour, actually.
Kung Fu Panda.
Because there's a lot of samey Jackie Chan movies, though, too. But he was working in that, Hong Kong circuit or whatever for a while.
Oh, yeah, they were just rolling out movies.
Yeah, they did movies like that. But of the later stuff, Super Cop, thank you, Comic Shop. That's definitely
that's a good one, too.
In the top 3.
Rush Hour, the first Rush Hour.
Operation Condor, Rumble in the Bronx, and Super Cop, for sure. I don't know how that didn't immediately come into my brain.
Second Rush Hour wasn't bad. The third Rush Hour wasn't good.
I don't even know if the first one's good.
I don't know. I find Chris Tucker annoying, and he just that was his Rush Hour 3 was his first movie in years, and he wanted crazy money. They gave it to him, but it was he wouldn't do anything vulgar in the movie. He wouldn't do anything sexualized because I think he was born again. It's he couldn't do basically any of his shtick in the third movie, or didn't want to, should I say.
Then what's the point of doing it?
Yeah, I heard they're talking about making Rush Hour 4.
I mean, let them, I guess. Who gives a fuck? They're about to make a new installment of everything that we ever grew up with and held dear. Aren't they making a new Beverly Hills Cop movie?
Yeah, but I mean,
I'm surprised there isn't a new fucking Police Academy being rolled out in the next couple of months.
You got Judge Reinhold back for the 4th Beverly Hills Cop, though.
That actually is cool news.
Taking a break from the Beethoven movies.
Oh, God. Beethoven 3 is something I'm not going to recover from anytime soon.
They've made so many more than that, too, is the sad part.
I just can't get through them, dude.
No.
I'm so traumatized by it. I just put the DVD in the glove box of my van, the DVD set. I don't know if I'm ever going to take it out. Maybe one of these days I'll whip it onto someone's front yard while I'm doing the mail, free gift. Here you go.
They track you down two blocks down and give it back to you. No thanks.
Yeah, they're so funny. We watched Beethoven 3. Frankly, sir, I'm offended by this gift.
Yeah, I remember really liking the first one. I want to say the second one wasn't bad, and then
Part 2 is fun. It's
as far as it went.
Part 2 is fun and surprising because you imagine that you can't make a sequel to a movie that is at its core as fucking stupid as Beethoven is. But they did it. They succeeded with the first sequel. It's pretty fucking fun. I do, for being random family movie trash that you'd watch with your wife and kids or something.
Right.
The first 2 Beethoven movies aren't really that bad. I mean, they're all right. I'd put them right up there with Homeward Bound, maybe. I'm getting depressed just thinking about having to watch movies like that. But yeah,
I remember liking the second Homeward Bound.
It's all right.
You got Michael J. Fox back, so that was the big get.
Yeah, they're all right. I enjoy them. They're those movies I can watch, with the fam or whatever, and I don't feel like I'm completely wasting my time.
Yeah, I don't think I've watched them since I was a kid though.
I watched the first 2 Homeward Bounds last year, and they're all right. Yeah, they're still pretty fun. But then there's other trash in that genre. I mean, the dog movie genre, like some of those Benji movies are pretty bad. Mostly any of the sequels they've made beyond the first sequel to any dog movie, I feel like has to fucking suck because there's no reason to make more than 2 of those. Other than that, people keep buying them. The type of people that are watching beyond Beethoven 3 are the type of people that don't let rated R movies in their house or something. So they have to watch shit like that to just even have stuff to watch, you know. Oh, I don't know about that Megan. It's PG-13 and I hear she does a TikTok dance. You guys can watch Beethoven 4 instead. You know, like that just is disgusting. And I don't want anything to do with those movies after watching Beethoven 3. I'm gonna watch them though at some point. Let's be real honest here. We're gluttons for punishment when it comes to this stuff. And I know it's fucking horrible. So yes, that thing is gonna remain buried in my glove box like the Jumanji game at the end of the movie for a while, with this subtle heartbeat of schlock beating out of that fucking glove box. And one of these days it's gonna get so loud that I won't be able to help myself but to take that thing out of there, pop in Beethoven 4, and curse at my TV screen for the next 90 minutes. Or in the case, for some reason, of Beethoven 3, it's like an hour and 40 minutes long, and that's not even with credits. The movie is an hour and 40 minutes fucking long. You know? Why does this exist?
Yeah, it's too long for a kid's movie.
That's too long for most fucking movies, man. I mean, let alone a movie about a dog going on a vacation with a family in an RV. I mean, at a certain point, you're just mad that the movie's still happening to you, you know?
Right.
It's like an assault committed upon your person, you know? The first fucking, 90 minutes, or the first like 60 minutes really, are just pure shock. You don't realize really what's happening to you, and then the last of it is like you resent the person for doing it to you. It's bad, and coming from us, that should be a very a huge disclaimer right there. Just don't fuck with Beethoven 3. Don't let Judge Reinhold fucking trick you into that thing. Even he looked like he would have rather been anywhere else during it. It's Judge fucking Reinhold. That guy's like a real life sea monkey. He's barely a human. We love him because of that, but
Right.
I mean, even he looked like he was trying to get out of that goldfish bowl that was this fucking movie, and they're trapped in this RV with these miserable kids. It's stupid. I don't know. Do you have any movies that make you angry like that? Like shit you've been forced to sit through? We always are pretty positive about stuff, but we've all seen movies too that are beyond terrible. That we legitimately do wish we could get that time of our life back.
I'm sure if given time I could rattle off a list, but I mean, I would say anything lately that's been that kind of bad, like I knew it going in just because I've kind of just went to like mostly just these B and micro budget movies. I know what I'm getting into, so if it's bad, it's expected. But I'm sure there's plenty of Hollywood movies I've seen through the years where I was just absolutely pissed throughout the entire movie.
Right. Most of the time it doesn't happen with me. I mean, it's, again, we kind of have a good, spidey sense when it comes to anticipating crap, but sometimes even we're surprised, most movies that I've seen that are like that, I've been able to thankfully escape pretty quickly, like Battlefield Earth. We saw that in the movie theater, and my mom made us leave like 30 or 40 minutes into it because, and I quote, the audio was obnoxious because the movie was super loud and not mixed good, so it was like the dialogue was quiet, but then the explosions would just, or like any type of loud sound effect would just fucking rock your world, and the movie sucked on top of that. But I don't know, there's only been a few of those. Maybe like Land Before Time Part 3. I remember being pretty fucking like furious after watching that too, because it's just so grossly bad. And I know we've talked recently on the show about getting that 14-pack Land Before Time set and forcing ourselves to watch it. And I'm definitely still down, but I'll admit that I am a little intimidated by how terrible that could probably get.
Oh yeah, I mean you're spending $20 and getting 14 movies. It's going to be rough.
We're also big proponents of the idea that a bad sequel or a remake or something doesn't destroy your childhood because the first thing still exists. But when you watch 14 bad sequels or something,
yeah, it's hard to keep that thought
maybe
process.
it can, So I'm a little nervous that I won't even like the first Land Before Time as much as I do after we're done with it.
I think if we do those are going to have to be spaced out a lot.
Because full disclosure, Land Before Time is one of my favorite movies of all time too. I watch it at least once a year.
That's great.
The second one, I do remember liking the little baby T-Rex and shit.
Yeah.
The third one was fucking horrible, and I've never seen any of the sequels beyond that. So what's that? 11 more movies that I have to subject myself to
I'm sure there was no redeeming sequels in there either.
Well, I suppose we'll find out one of these days because we're both buying that thing. Let's be honest.
We will.
At some point, we're gonna eventually pull the trigger on it. So
yeah,
stay tuned for that. Maybe that'll be a huge miserable stream that we go through one of these days where we talk about the Land Before Time movies, guys. I think it could be a lot of fun. So, and if you want to participate with us, you can grab that movie. And all 13 of its sequels at Walmart for, I believe, like $15.
Yeah, you're paying $1 a movie.
Let's see here. It looks like we've got Logan Run needs a remake. I don't know if we touched on that, but I'd agree. I like Logan's Run a lot. I think it's a really neat sci-fi like gimmick. The whole premise of that movie is pretty interesting, and I enjoy the heck out of it. I do think it could benefit from some modern touches to it, and it might even be the kind of thing that people would really, really vibe with nowadays. The bootlegger at the flea market wanted to give me a DVD of Brokeback Mountain back when it came out. I said, no thanks, not my cup of tea. I mean, I've never watched it myself either, but those movies in general, whether they're hetero as fuck or gay as shit like that one, I'm not a huge like romance fan, I don't think most of us are. So it could have been like straight, like a cowboy and a cowgirl, and I still wouldn't have given a fuck about the movie.
I watched it around when it came out, and like you, that's not my favorite genre of movies. And it wasn't a bad movie, and of course, it's not extreme, but it's a love, like a forbidden love story. So just not my kind of movie.
I mean, I could see if like I had to watch it because my wife wanted to or something, maybe finding some value in it,
Yeah, it's not terrible.
I've watched shit like that, like The Notebook or whatever, or Walk to Remember, movies like that aren't like romantic comedies. They're just romance movies or whatever. I've done that shit with like girlfriends, and I enjoyed them well enough. It's just not the kind of stuff that I watch. So,
right.
Damn, those memes have been funny, though. I've used a lot of those over the years.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And then he said Judge had a booze problem back then. Well,
if you're in Beethoven 3, you can't really blame him.
Yeah. I mean, I imagine you only do that to get a fix.
I'm sure that point in his life, I'm sure there's plenty of direct-to-video stuff he did that he wished didn't happen.
Yeah. I mean, it's not, I've made a good point about how horrible Beethoven 3 is, and it is horrible, but it's not the type of thing that if you like saw it on an airplane, I guess, with a couple of gin and tonics in you, that you would hope they crashed the plane before it ended or something. It's not that bad, but it is fucking pretty terrible, So yeah, I don't know if you guys have you seen the other Beethoven movies, Cody?
I don't think so. I don't remember past the second one. I want to say there's at least 5 of them. There's probably more than that. I want to say they did like a Son of Beethoven or something like that.
I think there's like a Christmas special plus then I think there's like up to 5 movies, and then there's a Christmas special, which is basically the 6th movie. Because I think the set that I have is 6 Beethoven movies, which I'm already basically tapped out on the 3rd one. That's too much Beethoven. No, I think they go against like pirates at one point. It just looks horrible. It looks like
There
it just
is
gets worse
8
and worse.
Beethoven movies.
Oh, that's fucking insane, dude. Nope. I'm not doing it. That thing's getting chucked out on a front lawn somewhere. That's too much. If there was 6, maybe I could commit to that. But 8, that means I've still basically got fucking 5 more movies to go through. Absolutely.
Beethoven's 4th, Beethoven's 5th, Beethoven's Big Break,
Beethoven's
Beethoven's
like the
Treasure
pirate one.
Tale,
Yeah, that's the one.
and then Beethoven's Christmas Adventure.
Oh, that is the set that I have. So yeah, I guess there is 8 things in it.
I will send you that along with that Mario Steelbook.
Well, no, I've got that set, that Beethoven set. So you should curse someone else with that. Send it to Jack. That's what you should do.
That is what I should start sending them. Just really crappy movies.
I don't know, man. I really don't want to watch that many more Beethoven movies, but again, we have a problem.
Yeah, that's very
I probably
true.
will. Thank you guys for watching. This has been yet another volume of that Midnight Movie Mixtape, baby. We will see you back here this Saturday with our discussion of that Face Melt double feature. I've been Mo. He has been Cody. This has been a pretty goddamn good time, and I'm looking forward to the next one. So.
84.